Everything will be fine, and we'll have a long, happy life together, the husband said when he was still trying to win her over. At that time, she wasn't really in love. She saw him as a strong protector from her worries. Her father told her, "My dear, I don't have much time left because of my heart problems. I'll be at peace if you marry." Lida, a small, gentle woman with soft brown curls, believed the sweet words of her most persistent suitor. Later, she realized he was like a chess player who won without making many promises, or like a hockey player who used his stick if needed. Or maybe she just hoped that she wouldn't be lonely and would have someone reliable by her side. She might have taken more time to think, but doctors kept giving worse news about her father. So she rushed into marriage, hoping her father would recover if he saw her wedding and heard about a pregnancy. She said, "Goodbye for now. I'll be very happy to love you." She should have noticed how her groom's face twisted with malice. But she was so worried about her father and her loneliness that she convinced herself she was imagining things. At that time, she thought it was all right. Did he ever prove his feelings or do anything for her? No, he just talked a lot. Music. In her anger, Lida said, "I, as someone who loves you, feel that I am needed by you and our future children. Just trust me, everything will be fine." She was overwhelmed, and her father paid for the wedding but didn't live to see it. As she stood there, crying, Yuri said, "Please don't embarrass me. People will think you're doing me a favor by marrying me." It was sad that he only said this after the wedding. Otherwise, she would have run away and forgotten everything. "I'm sorry I wanted to delay the wedding because of the recent funeral. I lost the closest person to me just a week ago." "Are you stupid? Who would pay for the wedding again? Would dear Papa come back and give more money?" the husband answered roughly. Anna suddenly felt faint in her beautiful wedding dress and collapsed to the floor. When she woke up, someone was pouring water on her to wake her up. Yuri, who had been cold before, was now acting sweet and caring, but he seemed as dangerous as a tempting but evil gingerbread house. "Come on, darling, wake up," Yuri said loudly. "This is your special day. You'll remember it." "It was a mistake," she whispered, still confused. She wasn't just talking about the wedding, but also about the baby growing inside her. "Why do you say that?" she wondered. She felt she'd made a mistake by getting pregnant by someone like him. She thought the baby would be unhappy, and she was foolish for hoping her father would get better if she rushed into marriage. "What's wrong, darling? What are you talking about?" Yuri asked as he led her out of the noisy restaurant into a quiet room. He then changed his tone. "Calm down, you idiot. This is all your fault, you know that. I only married you hoping that your father would leave us some property, but he's still alive and gave everything to his brother. All I got was a wedding with someone I think is a gray moth. And my father hates you. If I didn't care about my father, you'd mean nothing to me." Anna didn't understand why her father-in-law's feelings mattered. She barely knew him and had hardly spoken to him. Yuri continued, "Nothing good is going to come from this, but since you're pregnant, we'll have to wait to get a divorce." She had taken 2 pregnancy tests, both showing positive. She had to accept that she was going to have a baby. "But wait, I'll make your life miserable if you don't file for divorce after this pointless wedding," he said. "I'll put up with this disgrace only because. Career, people, and appearances. If your father hadn't left me that inheritance, I wouldn't have bothered with you at all," Yuri shouted, his face red with anger. Lida couldn't understand why her father had given all his property to her half-brother from his first marriage, Andre. She didn't even know Andre well. The news only came out at the funeral. All that was left was an old house no one wanted to fix up. Andre had said something odd. "Believe me, Dad wanted to protect you." "What do you mean?" she asked, but Andre said it wasn't the right time to explain and that someone would tell her later. It wasn't just that she found herself almost broke. She began to question if her father had ever truly loved her or if he had been pretending, like Yuri was now. This doubt was tearing her apart and suffocating her. "Yuri, I need to get some fresh air and then we'll act like everything is fine. Don't worry, after the wedding, you probably won't see me again except maybe during the divorce. Even then, we can handle things separately," she said calmly. Her only thought was to run away before she completely lost her mind. Weeks passed, and she stayed in her tiny apartment like a recluse, rarely going out. Lida struggled to eat as she thought about her humiliation. She called a taxi, but her wedding dress was so big with a crinoline that she couldn't fit inside. "First, you better change quickly, or we'll run out of time," said the driver, his face red with frustration. Liuta pulled out manicure scissors from her bag and, with the driver watching in shock, roughly tore the crinoline from her dress. Finally, the crinoline was gone, leaving only the wedding dress underneath. She was glad she had picked a dress that could be altered into a mermaid style by removing the crinoline. She didn't want to wait or call a minibus, she just needed to get away. As she traveled, she nervously glanced around, afraid she might do something drastic in the back seat of the car. Finally, unable to keep quiet any longer, the driver said, "I'm not one to give advice, but sometimes couples make up and things can look better in a new light, Lyudmila." For some reason, Liuta clung to these words, hoping for a change with the baby or improvement in her relationship. She waited, hoping for a call that might give her a brief sense of being needed or at least postpone making any decisions. She felt like she was a target, wounded and alone, needing time to heal. But nothing changed. An elderly man in an expensive suit came to deliver her divorce papers. "But he knows I'm pregnant and can't divorce me," she said. "What can I do? The more people like this argue, the more money I make. If everyone behaved decently, we'd be out of work. Sorry for being blunt, but I'm out of money and energy. I'm overwhelmed," she complained, though she knew he didn't care. The bald man just shrugged and said, "I'm not here to play therapist for the poor. Call a free help hotline if you need one." He waited for her signature and warned her not to delay or upset his client. "Yuri Arkadyevic told me everything. He knows about your life. Don't try to blame him. If you know who your real father is, handle it with him. Women these days are impossible. There's no room for sympathy," the man added. Liuta realized her husband had spoken badly about her, and she couldn't find the words to defend herself. What was the point of trying to prove anything to this cold, money-focused person? A week later, she prepared to follow the divorce summons. She decided not to spend money on a taxi since she didn't have the strength to work and had quit her job. Her savings were nearly gone, and she didn't want to call her half-brother, fearing another harsh lecture. After 2 subway transfers and a minibus ride, she walked quietly to face another humiliation, trying to keep her mind blank but unable to stop the tears. Suddenly, Liuta started to gasp for air and had to sit down on a bench. She had arrived early for her next challenge, and her usual habit of being overly punctual, along with the stress of recent events and her pregnancy, probably contributed to this. A hand touched hers, and she heard someone say, "Get away from that scoundrel quickly. When you get home, open the mirrored wardrobe and look behind the double wall. You'll be grateful for this day." "How do you know about the divorce?" Liuta wondered, suddenly recalling every word. She looked up and saw a gypsy sitting in front of her. Weary, she said, "I understand. You saw the sad woman near the divorce place. I don't have any gold or cash. Don't expect it and don't believe in any fairy tales, Ludachka. I'm not asking for anything," the gypsy said seriously. Her face seemed familiar, but Liuta couldn't remember where she had seen her before. "Please just leave me alone," Liuta asked, feeling overwhelmed and not wanting to deal with anything else. It was unclear how the gypsy knew her name, but maybe she had seen the documents in Liuta's bag while she was asleep. "Don't forget about the mirrored wardrobe and the divorce," the gypsy added. "We'll meet again, and things will be much better for you," she promised before disappearing. Liuta felt a flicker of hope about the mirrored wardrobe. She checked her bag and was relieved to find nothing missing. When she arrived at court, Yuri was there, but the crowd had vanished and her sadness over her father felt even heavier. The proceedings went smoothly, with nothing to divide. Yuri only wanted the ring he had given her back, which she handed over immediately. "Good luck," she said to him as they parted ways. "Who needs you?" "You're a nuisance," she added, using her grandmother's favorite phrase. It was sad that her grandmother had drowned with her mother on that steamboat. So many losses in the past 3 years. She even wondered if her father had left everything to Andrei because he had lost his mind under the strain. This thought made her feel a bit better, and she even managed to smile. Yuri recoiled in anger and stormed out. Liuta realized, regardless of whether the gypsy's words about the wardrobe were true or not, she was already grateful to be rid of this insensitive man. She took a taxi to celebrate her small victory, glad that the gypsy hadn't stolen anything and hadn't caused her any more distress. When Liuta got home, she examined the old oak mirror with its intricate carvings and found a screwdriver. She used it to remove the screws hiding the back wall of the mirror. Behind it, she discovered a key and a note in her father's handwriting. Liuta opened the blue old suitcase that Mom left behind from her last trip. Andre will tell you the rest. He's your friend, and your half-brother adores you. Liuta was shocked but had stopped being surprised by anything. She unlocked the suitcase and inside was a huge amount of cash, so much that she couldn't even count it, probably several tens of millions. Along with the money was Andre's phone number, and she remembered that he had never given her his number before, though she wasn't sure she had asked for it. The note continued, "I'm glad I made an impression on you. My acting studies weren't in vain. Let's meet at the cafe near your house. I'll explain everything. Your half-brother seems to be waiting for you." When Liuta asked about the call, she was surprised that Andre admitted he was the gypsy. The gray eyes and sharp nose matched. "I've been waiting for your call," Andre said. "Okay," she said, remembering. When she got home, she took another pregnancy test. Even though previous tests had shown positive, life can be unpredictable. This time, the test was negative. Whether or not the gypsy was really Andre, the test gave her hope that she might not have to have a baby with someone like Yuri. While she never would have considered ending the pregnancy, she was relieved that she might not be expecting after all. She waited a few months as Andre had asked, acting like nothing had happened. She didn't talk about her new wealth and didn't expect visitors. An ultrasound confirmed she wasn't pregnant. Andre explained that Yuri's father had been her father's enemy and had ordered his son to marry her, take her property, and make sure they had no children. Her father had done nothing wrong except be jealous and blame others for his failures. Yuri, who idolized his father, followed his orders. The fake documents and false pregnancy were all part of the plan. "But why didn't Dad warn me about marrying Yuri?" she asked. "Well, who knew? Dad was very ill when all this came to light. He was afraid that telling you might cause you to lose the baby. It was his grandchild too. So he sold everything and left you the suitcase and note," Andre explained. "Now you're safe. Yuri and his father have fled abroad to escape the debt they hadn't repaid and are facing legal trouble." "I thought you were a wicked stepbrother, glad I was left with nothing," Liuta said with a smile. "Why did you pretend to be a gypsy?" "It was to help you and let you know about the money secretly. If Yuri had seen us together, it might have raised suspicions. He was watching you," Andre said. "I studied acting, and by the way, I'm happy to share the success with you. I know my father didn't part on good terms with your mother, but he supported us both. There was no cheating involved, and we stayed friends." "Well, I'm going to move to a new apartment. I don't want Yuri coming back and asking about the child who will never be born," Liuta said. "Good idea. You always wanted to be an architect and move to the northern capital, right?" Andre asked. "Yes, you know everything, just like a gypsy," Liuta teased. "Don't say that. I'm a good person, and as I promised, we met, and things are better now," Andre said, sounding like the gypsy again. Liuta sighed with happiness. It wasn't just about the money. She was glad to have found someone reliable and close. Thank you for sticking with the story. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up. All the best to you.
The call came on the night of my biggest triumph. Isn't that how karma works? Just when you think you've finally proven everyone wrong, life throws you a curveball that makes you question everything. I'm Ren, and I was standing in my first solo exhibition at the Azure Gallery, champagne in hand, surrounded by my artwork and the gentle murmur of appreciation from Manhattan's elite art crowd. My best friend Sasha squeezed my arm, pointing out yet another red dot appearing beside one of my paintings. "That's the 8th one tonight," she squealed. God, your dad would eat his words if he could see this. I forced a smile, but the mention of my father still stung, even after 5 years. "Let's not go there tonight, Sash." Corey, my partner and the gallery owner, approached with a broad smile. "The critics are loving it, babe. That piece about urban isolation, they're calling it a masterpiece." I should have been ecstatic. This was everything I'd worked for since walking away from my father's empire. Tony Lawson, CEO of Lawson Industries, hadn't spoken to me since the day I told him I was choosing art school over business school. "You're throwing away your future," he'd said, his voice cold as steel. "Don't expect any support from me." My phone buzzed in my clutch. Unknown number. I usually ignored these, but something made me step away from the crowd and answer. "Is this Ren Lawson?" A woman's voice, professional but gentle. "Yes, speaking." "This is Dr. Wells from Mount Sinai Hospital. I'm your father's physician. I know this is unexpected, but your father has been diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. He needs a bone marrow transplant, and we've tested all immediate family members. You're his only viable match." The champagne glass slipped from my hand, shattering on the polished concrete floor. Several guests turned to stare, but I barely noticed. Ren? Sasha was at my side instantly, her hand on my shoulder. What's wrong? I held up a finger, trying to focus on Dr. Wells's voice as she explained the urgency of the situation. How long does he have? I managed to ask. Without the transplant? Maybe 3 months. With it, his chances of recovery are good. I know there's history between you two. Your mother mentioned the estrangement. Mom. Of course she'd been trying to reach me. I'd been screening her calls, too focused on the exhibition. I'll need time to think about it, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Of course. But please don't take too long. Here's my direct number. After hanging up, I turned to find both Sasha and Corey watching me with concern. My father's dying, I said flatly. And apparently, I'm the only one who can save him. Sasha's eyes widened. Holy shit. Corey pulled me into a hug, but I remained stiff. What are you thinking? He asked softly. I looked around the gallery, at my artwork displayed proudly on the pristine walls. Each piece represented a middle finger to my father's dismissal of my choices. The red dots beside them proved I wasn't the failure he'd predicted. I'm thinking about karma, I said, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. The daughter he disowned is his only hope. Ren, Sasha started, but I cut her off. No, this is perfect, actually. A plan was forming in my mind, something deliciously vindictive yet justified. He needs me now. After all these years of acting like I don't exist, he needs me. Whatever you're thinking, slow down, Corey warned. This isn't just about revenge. It's literally life and death. I walked to my centerpiece, a massive canvas depicting a man in a suit, his face obscured by shadow, standing alone in an empty boardroom. I'd painted it thinking of my father, though I'd never admitted that to anyone. You know what the worst part was? I said, staring at the painting. He never even looked at my work. Not once. He dismissed my entire career without ever seeing what I could do. My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. I declined the call. So what are you going to do? Sasha asked quietly. I turned back to them, my mind made up. I'm going to save his life, but first, he's going to have to swallow his pride and acknowledge everything he said I couldn't do. Be careful, Corey said, pulling me close. Revenge has a way of burning both ends. I leaned into him, watching as another red dot was placed beside one of my paintings. Sometimes, I whispered, karma needs a little help. The memory of my last confrontation with my father played in my mind as I sat in Dr. Wells's sterile office the next morning. 5 years ago, I'd stood in his mahogany-lined study, portfolio in hand, trying one last time to make him understand. Just look at them, I'd begged, spreading my sketches across his desk. I'm good at this, Dad. Really good. He hadn't even glanced at them. Being good at drawing pretty pictures won't secure your future, Ren. The company needs you. The company needs an heir, I'd corrected him. It doesn't need me specifically. Don't be dramatic, he'd said, shuffling my artwork aside to reach for some contracts. This rebellious phase needs to end. I'd gathered my drawings, hands shaking. This isn't a phase. This is who I am. Then you're no daughter of mine. Dr. Wells's voice pulled me back to the present. The procedure itself is relatively straightforward, she explained, spreading out medical documents. We'll harvest stem cells from your blood through a process called apheresis. Will it hurt? I asked, not sure why I cared. There can be some discomfort, yes. We'll give you injections for 5 days before the collection to increase stem cell production. Common side effects include bone pain, fatigue. My phone buzzed. Sasha, you okay? Want me to come with? Has he asked for me specifically? I interrupted Dr. Wells. She hesitated. Your father is private about his feelings, but your mother... That's a no then. I stood up, pacing the small office. He knows I'm the only match? Yes, we informed him yesterday. And he still hasn't asked for me himself? I laughed bitterly. Typical. Ren, Dr. Wells leaned forward, her expression gentle but serious. I understand there's history here, but time is crucial. Your father's condition is deteriorating rapidly. My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. Please call me, sweetheart. We need to talk. I'll do it, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. But I have conditions. Dr. Wells nodded cautiously. Medical decisions should be not medical conditions. I met her eyes. Personal ones. Before she could respond, a knock at the door interrupted us. My mother burst in, looking exactly as I remembered, but somehow smaller, more fragile. Ren, she breathed, moving to hug me. I stepped back. You should have told me yourself, Mom, not through his doctor. I tried calling, for what, a day, after 5 years of taking his side? I never took sides, she looked hurt. I supported your art. I sent you birthday cards, Christmas gifts, while living in his house, spending his money, watching him erase me from the family photos. My voice cracked. You chose peace over justice, Mom, every single day. Dr. Wells cleared her throat. Should I give you two a moment? No need, I said. I was just leaving. I'll do the transplant, but first, I need to talk to him, face to face. Mom reached for my arm. Honey, he's very weak. Perfect, I pulled away. Then maybe for once he'll actually listen. Outside the hospital, Sasha was waiting with coffee. Thought you might need this, she said, handing me a cup. How'd it go? I'm going to save his life, I said, taking a sip. But first he's going to come to my exhibition. He's going to stand up in front of everyone and admit he was wrong about me. Sasha nearly choked on her coffee. Holy shit, Ren, that's justified? I was going to say intense. She studied my face. Are you sure about this? Using his life as leverage? He used my entire future as leverage, I snapped. Told me it was either his way or nothing. Well, now it's my turn to make the rules. And what if he refuses? Then he's not just a bad father, I said, tossing my empty cup in a nearby bin. He's a proud fool who'd rather die than admit he was wrong about his daughter. My phone buzzed yet again. This time it was Corey. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. But remember, revenge might feel good now. But can you live with the consequences? I stared at his message for a long moment. Could I live with using my father's illness as a bargaining chip? Could I live with letting him die if he refused? But then I remembered all the nights I'd cried myself to sleep, all the family events I'd missed, all the times I'd checked the mail hoping for some sign that he still cared. I need to see him, I told Sasha. Today. She squeezed my hand. Want me to come with? I shook my head. No, this is between me and him. It's time to find out if his pride is really worth dying for. The hospital room was smaller than I expected for someone of my father's status. No mahogany panels here, just sterile white walls and the steady beep of monitors. He lay propped up in bed, still wearing a dress shirt despite the IV in his arm. Some habits die hard, I guess. Ren. His voice was weaker than I remembered, but his eyes were sharp as ever. You came. Not for you. I remained standing by the door. For Mom. And because letting you die would make me as heartless as you. He sighed, adjusting himself in the bed. If you came to throw accusations, I came to make a deal. I moved closer, noting how the illness had hollowed his cheeks. Isn't that the language you understand best? Always so dramatic. He tried to sound dismissive, but a coughing fit ruined the effect. I waited until it passed. Here's my offer. I'll do the transplant. But first you're going to attend my exhibition. He stared at me. That's all? No. I pulled up a chair but didn't sit. You're going to stand up in front of everyone. The critics, the buyers, your business friends, and publicly acknowledge that you were wrong about me. Wrong about my choices. Wrong about my art. The monitors beeped in the silence that followed. His face flushed with anger. Or maybe fever. Absolutely not. Then find another donor. I turned to leave. This is ridiculous, he snapped. You'd let me die over a speech? I spun back. You let me die 5 years ago. My dreams, my identity, everything I was. You killed it all because it didn't fit your precious plan. I was protecting you. You were protecting your ego, the words echoed off the walls. And now your ego is literally killing you. Poetic, isn't it? A nurse poked her head in. Everything okay in here? Fine, we said simultaneously. And for a moment, I saw a flash of our old connection. After she left, Mom slipped in. She must have been waiting outside. I heard shouting, she said, looking between us. Your daughter is attempting blackmail, Dad informed her. Your husband is choosing pride over survival, I countered. Mom sat heavily in the chair I'd ignored. Enough, both of you. Ren, honey, he's sick. This isn't the time for— When is the time, Mom? When he's dead? When there's nothing left to resolve? I pulled out my phone, pulled up the gallery website. Look, Dad, actually look. I held the phone in front of him. He turned away. Fine. I started reading reviews out loud. Lawson's work demonstrates a masterful understanding of light and shadow. Her commentary on modern isolation is haunting and profound. One of the most promising new artists in New York. Stop it, he muttered. The centerpiece alone sold for— I said stop. He knocked the phone from my hand. It clattered across the floor. Mom retrieved it, hands shaking. Tony, please, just look. I don't need to look at pictures to know I was right, he said. Success in art is fleeting. The family business is doing fine without me, I finished. Just like I'm doing fine without it. The difference is, right now, you're not fine at all. His heart monitor picked up speed. Mom noticed too, moving to his side. Ren, maybe we should continue this later. No. I stepped closer to his bed. Here's what's going to happen. You have until tomorrow to decide. Either you swallow your pride and acknowledge my success publicly, or you can explain to your shareholders why you chose death over admitting you were wrong about your daughter. You've become cruel, he whispered. I learned from the best. I headed for the door, then paused. The exhibition's next Friday. Dr. Wells says you're strong enough to attend for an hour. Think about it. Mom followed me into the hallway. Honey, please, there has to be another way. There was another way. For 5 years, there were other ways. He chose none of them. He's still your father. No. I felt tears threatening, but held them back. He made it very clear that he stopped being my father the day I chose my own path. Now he can deal with the consequences of that decision. And what about your consequences? She touched my arm. Can you live with them? I pulled away. I've been living with his consequences for 5 years. It's his turn now. As I walked away, I heard her call after me. He keeps every article about you, every review. He pretends he doesn't care. But he does, Ren. He does. I kept walking. If that was true, he could prove it, in front of everyone. My phone buzzed with a text from Sasha. How'd it go? I typed back. Ball's in his court now. We'll see if his pride is stronger than his will to live. You're stress painting again, Corey observed from the doorway of my studio. Empty coffee cups and paint-splattered newspapers littered the floor around my easel. I'm not stressed, I said, attacking the canvas with angry red strokes. I'm working. It's 3 a.m. He picked his way through the chaos. And that's the 3rd canvas you've started tonight. I stepped back, realizing I'd painted another shadowy businessman. Just like the one from the exhibition. Just like my father. Dr. Wells called, I said, dropping my brush into a jar of murky water. His condition's getting worse. The cancer's aggressive. Corey wrapped his arms around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. Have you heard from him? Radio silence. Mom says he's being stubborn. I leaned back against Corey's chest. Maybe I'm being stubborn too. You think? I pulled away. Don't you start. I'm just saying there might be a middle ground here. He gestured at my paintings. Look at what this is doing to you. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Mom's number. He's agreed, she said without preamble. He'll come to the exhibition. My heart jumped. And the public acknowledgement? A pause. He wants to meet at your studio today. 2 hours later, my father walked into my creative space, leaning on a cane I'd never seen before. Mom hovered nearby like she expected him to collapse any second. Maybe she was right. He looked worse than he had in the hospital. Nice space, he said, looking around at the paint-splattered walls and finished canvases. Thanks. The rent's reasonable since it's not in a mahogany-lined skyscraper. He winced at the jab but continued moving through the studio, stopping at each painting, actually looking at them. Finally. These are... He cleared his throat. These are quite good. I know. I crossed my arms. So, you wanted to meet? He turned to face me. I'll come to your exhibition. I'll even make a speech. But I have conditions, too. You're not really in a position to... Let me finish. He held up a hand. I'll acknowledge your talent, your success, but I won't apologize for trying to protect you from an uncertain future. Protect me? I laughed. You disowned me. Because I was terrified. The outburst seemed to drain him. He sank onto a paint-stained stool. Do you know how many artists actually succeed? How many end up struggling their whole lives? So you decided to guarantee my failure by cutting me off completely? Mom stepped between us. Please, both of you. Stay out of this, Elena. Dad snapped, then immediately softened. Sorry, I need to say this. He pulled something from his jacket pocket, a folded piece of paper, worn at the edges. What's that? I asked. My father's letter to me, when I told him I wanted to study music instead of business. His hands shook slightly. I never showed this to anyone, not even your mother. I took the letter hesitantly. As I read, my breath caught. The words could have been written by my father to me. The same disappointment, the same ultimatums. You wanted to be a musician? He nodded. Piano, I was quite good, but my father... He gestured at the letter. Well, you know how that story ends. You gave in, I said softly. I gave in. Built the company bigger than he ever dreamed. But I always wondered... He looked at my paintings again. You're stronger than I was, braver. The letter trembled in my hands. Why didn't you ever tell me this? Because admitting it meant facing my own cowardice. He stood slowly, unsteady on his feet. I'll come to your exhibition. I'll make the speech. Not because you're forcing me, but because you deserve it. You did what I couldn't. Mom was crying silently. I felt my own eyes burning. Dad! He swayed slightly, and Mom rushed to steady him. Just promise me one thing. Don't do the transplant out of revenge. Do it because, despite everything, we're still family. As they left, I sank to the floor, his father's letter still clutched in my hand. Corey found me there an hour later, surrounded by scattered art supplies and complicated emotions. You okay? He asked, sitting beside me. I wanted this to be simple, I whispered. Revenge, justice. But it's not simple at all, is it? He took my hand. Family never is. My phone buzzed, a text from Sasha. Did he agree? I stared at the message, thinking about fathers and children, about art and fear, about revenge and forgiveness. Yes, I typed back, but I'm not sure who won anymore. The pre-transplant tests felt endless. Blood draws, physical exams, psychological evaluations. Through it all, my father's letter to his father stayed in my jacket pocket, its edges softening from constant handling. You're a good candidate, Dr. Wells said, reviewing my results. We can schedule the procedure for next week, after your exhibition. How's he doing? I asked, rolling down my sleeve after the latest blood draw. Holding on. Your mother says he's been practicing his speech. I snorted, probably having his PR team write it. Actually, Mom's voice came from the doorway. He's been writing it himself, in the hospital garden, every morning. She looked exhausted, the kind of tired that seeps into your bones after too many nights in hospital chairs. You should go home, get some rest, I told her. I will. But first... She pulled out her phone, showed me a photo. My father sat in the hospital garden, legal pad on his lap, pen in hand. He looked small in the morning light, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen him. He's really trying, Ren. I touched the letter in my pocket. Yeah, well, maybe he should have tried 5 years ago. Maybe we all should have. She sat beside me. I found something yesterday, cleaning his home office. Want to see? She pulled out a manila folder, thick with papers. Inside were printouts of every online article about my art, every review, every gallery mention. Some had his handwritten notes in the margins. Strong composition. Excellent use of light. My daughter did this. He's been following your career all along, Mom said softly, too proud to admit it, but too invested to look away. I flipped through the articles, dates going back years. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? Before I could answer, Sasha burst in, waving her phone. Have you seen this? Someone leaked that you're doing the transplant. It's all over social media. Dr. Wells frowned. Patient confidentiality. It's fine, I interrupted, taking Sasha's phone. The post was from a local art blog. Rising star artist Ren, to save father's life through bone marrow donation. The comments are wild, Sasha said. People are calling it everything from a publicity stunt to a modern fairy tale. Great, I handed back her phone. Now my private family drama is public entertainment. Isn't that what you wanted? Mom asked quietly. Public acknowledgement? Not like this. I stood up abruptly. I need air. I found myself in the same garden where Dad had been writing his speech. Sasha followed, because of course she did. Talk to me, she said, sitting on a bench. I pulled out the letter, handed it to her. As she read, her eyes widened. Holy shit, so he gave up his dreams because his father made him. Yeah. I picked at a loose thread on my sleeve. Doesn't excuse what he did to me, but it explains it, Sasha suggested. Maybe, I don't know. I looked at her. What if I'm making a huge mistake? Using the transplant as leverage? Honey, that ship has sailed. The question now is, what are you going to do next? My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Saw the news. Don't worry about it affecting the exhibition. Focus on your art. That's what matters. Another buzz. Corey this time. Gallery's getting calls about the story. Want me to handle it? It's all spinning out of control, I told Sasha. This was supposed to be about making him face what he did to me. Now it's becoming this whole thing. Maybe that's not bad, she said. Maybe it needs to be bigger than revenge. I thought about the articles he'd saved, his notes in the margins, about him sitting in this garden, writing a speech by hand instead of having his PR team do it. I need to see him, I said suddenly. We found him in his room, asleep with a legal pad on his lap. Mom was right. He looked exhausted. I picked up the pad carefully. The speech was half finished, crossed out and rewritten multiple times, but one line stood out, unmarked by corrections. My daughter taught me that the greatest act of courage isn't succeeding, it's daring to fail on your own terms. He's been working on it all morning, Mom said from behind me. Refuses to let anyone help. I placed the pad back on his lap. His eyes fluttered open. Ren? His voice was rough with sleep. Is everything okay? Yeah, I said, surprising myself by meaning it. I wanted to tell you that whatever you say at the exhibition, make it real. That's all that matters. He nodded slowly. I'm trying. I know. I touched his hand briefly. I'm trying too. Outside his room, Sasha was waiting with a knowing look. Shut up, I said before she could speak. Didn't say anything. She linked her arm through mine. Come on, let's go make some art about all this. God, no, I laughed. I think there's been enough drama already. But later that night, in my studio, I started a new painting. Not of a shadowy businessman this time, but of a man in a garden, writing his truth one painful word at a time. The exhibition space buzzed with anticipation. The story of the estranged artist's daughter saving her father's life had drawn twice the usual crowd, much to Corey's delight and my discomfort. Channel your inner socialite, Sasha advised, adjusting my dress. You've got this. Everyone's staring, I muttered, forcing a smile at another group of whispers and pointed fingers. They're admiring your work, Corey said, appearing with champagne. The new pieces are getting the most attention. He meant the garden painting. I'd finished it just days ago, hanging it in a quiet corner away from the main display. It was more intimate than my usual style, showing my father in his moment of vulnerability. Any word from the hospital? I asked Mom, who was checking her phone for the 100th time. They're on their way. The nurse insisted on accompanying him. She touched my arm. He's weak, Ren. Maybe we should skip the speech. No, I pulled away. That was the deal. Still holding on to that? Sasha raised an eyebrow. After everything? Before I could respond, a reporter approached. Ren, can you comment on the timing of your father's illness and your rising success in the art world? No comment. Corey stepped between us. Please respect the family's privacy. But the public wants to know? The public can look at the art, I snapped. That's what they're here for. More cameras flashed. More whispers. I escaped to the back room, leaning against the wall and closing my eyes. Deep breaths, Sasha said, following me. Want me to cause a distraction? I could spill wine on that pushy reporter. I laughed despite myself. Thanks, but he's here. Mom appeared in the doorway. But Ren, he's not doing well. I pushed past her into the gallery. Dad sat in a wheelchair, a nurse hovering nearby. He looked worse than ever, pale and drawn, but his eyes were alert as they scanned the room. The crowd parted as I approached. Phones came out. Someone started filming. You came, I said softly. I made a promise. His voice was barely audible. Show me? I wheeled him through the gallery, past my older works, the ones he'd never seen. He commented on each one, asking questions about technique and inspiration. His observations were surprisingly astute. You really did follow my career, I said as we reached the garden painting. He stared at it for a long moment. Is that how you see me now? It's how you are. We both are. I knelt beside his wheelchair. Dad, maybe we should skip the speech. You're not well. No. He gripped my hand with surprising strength. I need to do this. Help me up. The nurse protested, but he was already struggling to his feet. Corey quickly brought over a microphone and small platform we'd set up. The gallery fell silent as my father stood, shaking but determined. Cameras raised. Mom grabbed my hand. My daughter, he started, then coughed. The nurse moved forward, but he waved her away. My daughter Ren is an artist. 5 years ago, I told her this was a mistake, that she was throwing her life away. He paused, breathing heavily. I found myself holding my breath, too. I was wrong. His voice grew stronger. I see that now, looking at these walls, at what she's created. But my greatest mistake wasn't doubting her talent. It was letting my fear for her future destroy our present. Tears rolled down Mom's cheeks. Sasha squeezed my shoulder. I stand here today not because of a deal or an ultimatum, but because I'm proud. Proud of the artist she's become. Proud of the woman who had the courage I never did. He turned to face me directly. Proud to call you my daughter, if you'll still have me as your father. The room erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, but I barely noticed because Dad was swaying dangerously. I reached him just as his knees buckled. The nurse rushed forward with the wheelchair. I did it, he whispered as we lowered him down. I kept my word. You did great, I said, wiping tears I hadn't realized were falling. Now let's get you back to the hospital. Wait. He pulled a folded paper from his jacket. My father's letter. Keep it. Remember that breaking cycles takes courage. As the nurse wheeled him out, reporters swarmed forward with questions. Corey and Sasha ran interference while Mom followed the wheelchair. I stood alone in the gallery, clutching 2 generations of letters about fathers and children and broken dreams. The revenge I'd planned felt hollow now, replaced by something more complicated, but also more real. My phone buzzed. Dr. Wells. Transplant scheduled for tomorrow morning. Are you ready? I looked at the garden painting, at the man writing his truth. Yes, I typed back. We both are. The transplant room was colder than I expected. Dad lay in one bed while I settled into another, both of us wearing matching hospital gowns that seemed designed to strip away any pretense of dignity. Last chance to back out, Dr. Wells said, though we all knew I wouldn't. Just don't mess up my painting arm, I joked weakly. Dad turned his head toward me. Ren, I need to tell you something before... Save your strength, I interrupted. We have time. No. He struggled to sit up straighter. I need to say this now, in case... Don't you dare. My voice cracked. No deathbed confessions allowed. The nurses bustled around us, inserting IVs, checking monitors. Mom stood in the corner, clutching her purse like a lifeline. She'd aged 10 years in the past week. The exhibition, Dad continued, ignoring my protest. What I said, it wasn't just for show. I've been reading about your work for years, every article, every review. I know. Mom showed me the folder. No, not just the folder. He coughed. I went to your first show, stood in the back. You were so confident, so sure of yourself. Just like you, Mom finished softly. A nurse approached with the first round of medications. This might make you drowsy, she warned. Wait, Dad said. There's more. The day you left, after you stormed out, I looked at your portfolio. My breath caught. What? The sketches you left on my desk. I looked at every single one. They were brilliant. His voice grew fainter as the medication took hold. I was just too proud to admit I was wrong. Why didn't you tell me? But his eyes were already closing. He's been carrying that guilt for 5 years, Mom said, moving to my bedside. Maybe that's punishment enough. Dr. Wells appeared with another syringe. Ready? I nodded, watching the clear liquid enter my IV. The room started to blur around the edges. Mom? I reached for her hand. Will you tell me about Dad, when he played piano? She smiled through tears, stroking my hair like she did when I was small. He was amazing. Used to play late at night when he thought everyone was asleep. Chopin was his favorite. Her voice faded as the drugs pulled me under. I dreamed of music and paint, of letters and gardens, of fathers and daughters trying to break free of inherited fears. When I surfaced, Sasha was there, scrolling through her phone. Welcome back, Sleeping Beauty, she grinned. You'll never guess what's trending. Please tell me they didn't film the transplant. No, but your gallery painting? The one of your dad in the garden? It's gone viral. People are calling it Redemption in Green. Pretentious much? How is he? I tried to sit up, but the room spun. Stable. The doctors are optimistic. She helped me with some water. Corey's been fielding calls from collectors all morning. Apparently, family drama is good for business. Great. My pain is profitable. Hey, she grabbed my hand. Stop that. This stopped being about pain the moment you saw those articles he saved. Admit it. This is about healing now. Before I could argue, Dr. Wells entered with Mom. The preliminary results are good, she announced. The stem cells are doing exactly what we hoped. Can I see him? He's still sedated, but... Mom started. Please. They wheeled my bed into his room. He looked peaceful, younger somehow, without the weight of unspoken words. I found something else, Mom said, pulling out her phone. Listen. She pressed play. Piano music filled the room, Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. The recording was old, slightly scratchy. Dad? She nodded. From college, before he gave it up. He was good, I whispered. The best, she agreed. Just like you with your art. We're not so different, are we? I watched his chest rise and fall. Both trying to live up to impossible expectations. Both breaking free in your own ways, Sasha added. Mom played another recording, this one of a livelier piece. In his bed, Dad's fingers twitched slightly, muscle memory dancing across invisible keys. When he wakes up, I said, I want to paint him playing, not in the garden this time, at a piano. He'd like that, Mom smiled. And maybe... I hesitated. Maybe he could teach me, if he wants to. Sasha wiped away a suspicious moisture from her eyes. Look at you, going from revenge to piano lessons. Character development much? Shut up, I laughed, then winced as the movement pulled at my IV. In the other bed, Dad stirred slightly. His monitors beeped steadily, strong and sure, like a metronome keeping time for a piece we were just learning to play together. Rest, Mom said, seeing my eyes grow heavy again. You both have plenty of time now. As I drifted off, Chopin's notes wrapped around us like a promise of second chances, of new beginnings painted in shades of forgiveness. The piano notes drifted through my childhood home, hesitant but determined. I followed the sound to the living room, where Dad sat at his newly restored baby grand, fingers moving carefully over the keys. "You're rushing the middle section," I said, setting my art supplies down. He smiled without stopping. "And you're late for your lesson." Gallery meeting ran long. Apparently, Redemption in Green is being featured in Modern Art Quarterly. The music faltered. "That's the garden piece?" "Mm-hmm." I unpacked my sketchbook. "Keep playing. I need to catch your hands at the right angle." He returned to the piece, Chopin, always Chopin, while I sketched. The afternoon sun caught the silver in his hair, the slight tremor in his recovered hands. "You're staring," he noted. "Artist's prerogative." I smudged a shadow with my thumb. "Besides, you stared at my work for 5 years without telling me." "Fair enough." He hit a wrong note, cursed softly. "It's harder than I remembered. Starting over usually is." The front door opened and Mom's voice called out, "I brought dinner! Sasha and Corey are here too." "Perfect timing," Dad said, closing the piano lid. "I need a break." "Giving up already?" I teased. He gave me a look. "Resting. There's a difference." Sasha burst in, carrying takeout bags. "Ooh, are we finally getting a piano concert?" "Not today," Dad and I said simultaneously. "Creepy," Sasha stage whispered to Corey, who was setting up plates. "They're starting to sink." Mom arranged the food while I cleared away my art supplies. Dad moved to help, but his hands shook slightly. "I've got it," I said quietly. "I'm not made of glass, Ren." "No, but you are recovering from major surgery and a 3-hour piano session." I gestured at the couch. "Sit." He sat, but not without grumbling. "When did you become the parent?" "When you decided to nearly die on me." The room fell silent. We didn't talk about that much. The transplant, the fear, the uncertainty. It was still too raw. "Speaking of parenting," Corey broke the tension. "Show them, babe." I pulled out my phone, opened the email I'd received during the gallery meeting. "Remember that arts education initiative I mentioned? They want me to run their youth program, teaching kids from underprivileged backgrounds." "Ren, that's wonderful," Mom exclaimed. "It's part-time," I continued, watching Dad's reaction. "So I can still paint, still do exhibitions, but also give back, you know?" Dad nodded slowly, teaching the next generation to be brave. "Braver than we were," I agreed. "Oh," Sasha jumped up. "Show them the other thing." I shot her a look, but she was already pulling the rolled canvas from my art bag. "Sasha, they'll love it." Dad leaned forward as she unfurled the painting. It showed him at the piano, but not as he was now. This was young Dad, playing with abandon, joy evident in every brushstroke. "How?" Mom's voice cracked. "How did you know what he looked like then?" "Found his old college photos. Plus," I gestured at my face. "Apparently, I looked just like him at that age. Who knew?" Dad touched the canvas gently. "Is this for your office?" I finished. "If you want it. Kind of a thank you for the piano lessons. Even though I'm a terrible teacher, especially because you're a terrible teacher." He laughed, then grew serious. "I don't deserve this." "Maybe not." I sat beside him. "But that's not why I painted it. I painted it because I wanted to capture the moment before fear won, before you gave up your dreams." "I didn't give them up," he said softly. "I just passed them on, in a different form." Sasha pretended to gag. "Okay, enough emotional growth. Can we eat before the food gets cold?" We gathered around the coffee table, passing containers, sharing stories. Mom insisted on hearing about the youth program. Corey talked about the gallery's expansion plans. Dad complained about his physical therapy while secretly looking pleased at his progress. As the evening wound down, he returned to the piano. This time the notes were stronger, more confident. I picked up my sketchbook again. "Still staring," he noted. "Still drawing," I countered. "We've got a lot of lost time to capture." The music swelled, filling the room with possibilities, not of what could have been, but of what could still be. "Hey, Dad?" "Hmm?" "I'm glad you were wrong, about art being a mistake. His fingers never stopped moving across the keys. I'm glad you were strong enough to prove it. I started a new sketch, this one of the present moment. Family gathered close, music in the air, the future an empty canvas waiting to be filled. Not with revenge or regret, but with second chances, played in perfect time.
Perfect families don't exist. I learned that truth watching my father practice his mayoral campaign speech in front of our antique mirror, his face twisted into that practiced smile that never quite reached his eyes. The same smile he wore now, standing at the head of our mahogany dining table, raising his crystal wine glass. To family unity, he proclaimed, his voice carrying that familiar authoritative tone that had echoed through my childhood, and to new beginnings. I lifted my glass mechanically, the wine bitter on my tongue. Across the table, my twin sister Samantha beamed, her perfect posture and designer dress the mirror image of our mother. Next to her, Oliver adjusted his tie, looking every bit the successful lawyer he pretended to be. Michelle, my mother's voice cut through my thoughts, sharp as a blade. Do fix your posture, dear. We're not at one of your creative gatherings. I straightened, catching Tom's sympathetic glance from beside me. His presence, in his clean but clearly non-designer shirt, was like a breath of fresh air in this suffocating room. As I was saying, my father continued, this mayoral campaign represents not just my ambitions, but our family's legacy. We must present a united front. The Sanders name carries weight in this town, and with it comes responsibility. The words washed over me like a familiar tide of expectations and obligations. I nodded at appropriate intervals, playing my part in this carefully orchestrated performance. But then something changed. My father's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his practiced smile faltering for just a moment. "Excuse me," he said, stepping into his study. "Important campaign business." Perhaps it was the wine, or maybe just 27 years of suppressed rebellion, but I found myself drifting toward the study door, which hadn't quite closed properly. "Listen carefully," my father's voice hissed, all pretense gone. "We had an agreement. That file stays buried, or things will get very unpleasant for both of us. Do you understand?" My heart hammered against my ribs. I'd never heard that tone from him before. Cold, threatening, almost cruel. "Everything all right, Michelle?" Oliver's voice made me jump. He stood too close, his cologne overwhelming, his smile as practiced as my father's. "Just getting some air," I said, stepping back. Something in his eyes told me he knew better. Back at the table, the conversation continued as if nothing had happened. Samantha chatted about wedding plans, my mother nodded approvingly, and Tom squeezed my hand under the table, sensing my unease. "I've always believed," my father announced, returning to his seat, "that family is everything. We protect our own, don't we?" "Of course, Daddy," Samantha agreed immediately. I stared at my plate, the perfectly arranged food suddenly unappetizing. The man at the head of the table wasn't the father I thought I knew. That phone call had cracked something open, revealing shadows I couldn't unsee. "Michelle?" My father's voice carried a note of expectation. "Don't you agree?" I looked up, meeting his gaze. For the first time, I saw something there that made my skin crawl, a warning perhaps, or a threat. "Yes," I heard myself say, the lie tasting worse than the wine. "Family is everything." Later that night, as Tom drove me home, I couldn't shake the memory of that phone call, of that unfamiliar cruelty in my father's voice. My phone buzzed, a text from Samantha. "Wasn't it a lovely evening? Daddy was so happy." I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the reply button. The perfect Sanders family facade was cracking, and beneath it lurked something dark and ugly. The question was, what was I going to do about it? 3 days after that dinner, I sat in Samantha's pristine downtown office, watching her arrange her designer pen collection while I gathered courage to speak. The city skyline stretched behind her, a perfect backdrop for the perfect daughter's perfect life. "You're being ridiculous," she said before I could start. "Daddy would never threaten anyone." "I know what I heard, Sam." I leaned forward, my reflection fractured in her glass desk. "That wasn't a campaign call. He was threatening someone about a file." She aligned another pen, this one in metallic gold. "You've always had an overactive imagination. Remember when you convinced yourself Mrs. Peterson next door was running a cult? We were 12, and she did have weird midnight gatherings." "They were book club meetings." Samantha finally looked up. Her face, my face with better makeup, set in that familiar expression of patronizing concern. "Look, Daddy's under a lot of pressure with the campaign. The last thing he needs is you spinning conspiracy theories." The words stung precisely as she intended. "Oliver was hovering by the study door that night. Did you notice that?" Something flickered across her features. So brief I almost missed it. Fear? Uncertainty? But then her professional mask slipped back into place. "Oliver was being polite, checking if Daddy needed anything. Since when does your fiancé play errand boy?" "Stop it." Her voice cracked slightly. "Just stop. Everything's finally perfect. The campaign, the wedding plans, my promotion. Why do you always have to dig up problems?" I stood up, my chair scraping against the polished floor. "Because someone has to look past the surface, Sam. When did you become so afraid of the truth? When did you become so determined to destroy our family?" She turned to the window, but I caught her reflection, the slight tremor in her jaw, the way her fingers curled into fists. "I'm trying to protect you?" "From what? Our successful father? My wonderful fiancé? Your paranoia is getting out of hand." The door opened and Oliver stepped in, his timing too perfect to be coincidental. "Everything all right, ladies?" I thought I heard raised voices. "Everything's fine," Samantha said quickly. Too quickly. Oliver's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Michelle, always a pleasure. Though shouldn't you be at work? Or does freelancing mean unlimited coffee breaks?" Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Tom. "Found something. Meet me at the shop. Important." "I need to go," I said, gathering my bag. At the door, I turned back. "Sam, just be careful, please." She didn't respond, but I saw Oliver's hand settle on her shoulder, possessive and controlling. The sight made my stomach turn. Tom's auto shop was a welcome change from the sterile office tower. He was under a vintage Mustang when I arrived, but rolled out immediately at the sound of my footsteps. "Remember how you asked me to look into your dad's old business ventures?" He wiped his hands on a rag, leading me to his office. "Well, my mother still has connections at the school board. She found something interesting." He pulled up an old newspaper article on his computer. The headline read, "Local Education Initiative Collapses, Investors Left in the Dark." "This was 7 years ago," Tom explained. "Your father was involved in a private education venture. It went bankrupt under suspicious circumstances, and look who handled the legal proceedings." My breath caught. There, in a grainy photo, stood Oliver Grant, looking younger but wearing the same calculated smile. "They knew each other," I whispered. "Before Samantha, before everything. They've been working together." Tom squeezed my shoulder. "There's more. The missing file your father mentioned? I think it might be connected to this. The bankruptcy proceedings were sealed, which is unusual for a private education venture." I stared at the screen, pieces clicking into place. "Oliver's not just marrying into our family by chance, is he?" "Doesn't look like it." My phone buzzed again, another text from Samantha. "I'm sorry about earlier. Maybe you're right. Can we talk?" I showed Tom the message. What do I do? He studied it for a moment. Be careful. If we're right about this, you're dealing with people who've been playing a very long game. I nodded, typing a response to my sister while my mind raced with possibilities. Whatever game our father and Oliver were playing, they hadn't counted on one thing. They weren't the only ones who could dig up the past. The sealed bankruptcy files were like a splinter in my mind, impossible to ignore. I'd spent a week digging through public records, following paper trails that seemed to lead nowhere. Then Margaret, Tom's mother, called with news that changed everything. The school board keeps backup records, she said, her voice crackling over the phone. Someone tried to delete the originals, but they missed these. Michelle, it's worse than we thought. 2 hours later, I sat in her kitchen, staring at documents spread across her worn oak table. The numbers didn't lie. My father and Oliver had siphoned millions from the education venture, leaving dozens of teachers unemployed and hundreds of students stranded mid-semester. Your father was clever, Margaret said, tapping a document. He used shell companies, made everything look legitimate. But Oliver, he got sloppy, left a paper trail. My hands shook as I gathered the evidence. I need to confront him. Michelle. Margaret's hand covered mine. Be careful. Men like Oliver don't take kindly to being exposed. I found him at his law office, working late as usual. His secretary tried to stop me, but I pushed past her, my heart thundering against my ribs. Oliver looked up from his desk, that practiced smile already in place. Michelle, what an unexpected pleasure. I dropped the files on his desk. 7 years ago, you helped my father steal millions from an educational project. Want to tell me why? His smile didn't waver, but something cold crept into his eyes. Those are serious accusations, and privileged information, I might add. Is that why you're marrying my sister? To keep your secrets safe? He stood slowly, buttoning his suit jacket. You know, Michelle, you've always been the problematic twin, never knowing when to leave well enough alone. He walked to his office door, closed it softly. Your father warned me about you. Stay away from my sister. Or what? He picked up the files, flipped through them casually. You'll expose us? Destroy your father's campaign? Break Samantha's heart? He leaned closer, his cologne suffocating. Think carefully about your next move. I already have. I pulled out my phone, showed him the recording icon. Every word, Oliver, every threat. For a moment his mask slipped. Rage flashed across his features, transforming him into something ugly and familiar. The same expression I'd seen on my father's face during that phone call. You stupid girl. His voice was barely a whisper. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Your father and I built something valuable from those ashes. The connections we made, the influence we gained, it's all part of a bigger picture. A picture built on theft and lies. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Ask yourself this, if you expose us, what happens to Samantha's career? Her reputation? The Sanders name might mean nothing to you, but it's everything to her. My phone buzzed, a text from Tom. Where are you? Not safe. Get out now. You're right about one thing, I said, backing toward the door. The Sanders name means nothing to me, not anymore. Think about tomorrow's headline, Oliver called after me. Mayoral candidate's daughter makes false accusations. Who do you think they'll believe? The respected lawyer and university dean, or the rebellious daughter with a history of causing trouble? I made it to the elevator before my legs gave out. My phone buzzed again. Samantha this time. Where are you? Oliver just called. He's worried about you. The doors opened to reveal my father standing there, his campaign smile firmly in place. Michelle, he said, stepping inside, we need to talk about your recent activities. As the doors closed, trapping me with him, I realized Oliver's warning hadn't been a threat. It had been a promise, and now I was about to discover exactly what I was dealing with. My father pressed the emergency stop button. "You've become a liability," he said, his voice eerily calm. "And in this family, we deal with liabilities very carefully." The elevator hung suspended between floors, and with it, my last illusions about the man I'd called father for 27 years. The bruises on my wrists from my father's grip in the elevator had faded, but the memory hadn't. 3 days of hiding at Tom's place, jumping at shadows, wondering if every passing car belonged to Oliver or my father. The evidence sat in a safety deposit box downtown. My insurance policy, Tom called it. Margaret brought coffee and newspapers each morning, her face growing grimmer with each campaign headline. Today's read: Sanders leads polls, family values platform resonates. "You could leave town," she suggested, not for the first time. "Start fresh somewhere else." I watched Tom through the window, working on his beloved Mustang. "And let them win? Better than letting them hurt you." My phone lit up with Samantha's 20th message. "Please come home. We can fix this." The doorbell rang. Tom dropped his wrench, moving quickly toward the house, but I was already opening the door. My mother stood there, perfectly coiffed as always, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. "Michelle?" Her voice wavered. "We need to talk." I let her in, noting how her eyes darted around Tom's modest living room, lingering on the mismatched furniture and motor magazines. "Your father is worried sick," she started. "Worried I'll expose him, you mean?" She flinched. "There are things you don't understand. Compromises we've made." "Compromises?" I laughed, the sound harsh even to my ears. "Is that what we're calling fraud now?" "Your father did what was necessary." She opened her bag, removed an envelope. "Oliver prepared these papers. Sign them and everything can go back to normal." Inside were non-disclosure agreements, thick with legal jargon. My hands shook as I read. "You want me to sign away my right to ever speak about what they did?" "I want to protect this family." Her mask cracked slightly. "You don't know what they're capable of." "What do you mean?" She glanced at Tom, who stood protectively in the doorway, then back to me. "Oliver, he has connections, dangerous ones. The education project wasn't just about money." "Mom, sign the papers, Michelle. Please." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Before someone gets hurt." The front door opened again. Margaret entered, stopping short at the scene before her. My mother straightened, composing herself. "Carol Sanders," Margaret said coldly. "Still doing Richard's dirty work, I see." "Margaret Reynolds," my mother's tone matched hers. "Still interfering in other people's families. Someone has to protect these girls since their own mother won't." My mother stood clutching the unsigned papers. "You don't know anything about protecting family." "I know your husband and Oliver destroyed my teaching career over those missing files." Margaret's revelation hit like a physical blow. "Did you know that, Michelle? After I reported the irregularities, I was blacklisted from every school in the district." The pieces clicked into place. Margaret's early retirement, her determination to help me. My mother's face had gone pale. "I'm sorry, Margaret," she whispered, "but you don't understand what's at stake now." "Then explain it," I demanded. "What are they really involved in?" Instead of answering, she headed for the door, pausing with her hand on the knob. "Samantha's engagement party is tomorrow night. Oliver insisted on announcing it early, given the circumstances." She looked back, her eyes filled with something that might have been fear. "Don't come, please." After she left, I stared at the papers she'd left behind. Tom picked them up, reading through them with a mechanic's precision. "These aren't just NDAs," he said finally. "They're a confession. If you signed, you'd be admitting to making false accusations for personal gain." My phone buzzed again, not Samantha this time, But Oliver, your mother delivered my message. Choose wisely. I looked at Tom, then Margaret, thinking of my mother's fear and my father's threats. The truth about their corruption could destroy them, but the cost might be higher than I'd imagined. The engagement party, I said slowly. That's where everything connects. Oliver's rushing it for a reason. Michelle, Margaret warned, don't. I need to be there. I picked up my phone, typing a response to Oliver. Time to end this game. The engagement party glittered with false promises. Crystal chandeliers cast shadows across familiar faces, turned strange, while waiters circulated with champagne that cost more than my monthly rent. I adjusted the recording device hidden beneath my dress, feeling the weight of the evidence in my clutch. Samantha spotted me first. She broke away from a cluster of well-wishers, her designer dress rustling as she approached. You shouldn't be here. You texted me 20 times asking me to come home. That was before. She glanced over her shoulder at Oliver, who watched us from across the room. Things are complicated now. They're about to get more complicated. I pulled out the bankruptcy documents. Did you know about this? Her fingers trembled as she took the papers, her engagement ring catching the light. Michelle, please, not tonight. When then? After you marry him? After he and Dad destroy more lives? You don't understand. Her voice cracked. Oliver explained everything. The bankruptcy was necessary. Those teachers, including Margaret, they were involved in something dangerous. Dad and Oliver protected the school. Is that what they told you? I studied my sister's face, seeing the doubt beneath her practiced smile. Or is that what you need to believe? Oliver materialized beside us, sliding an arm around Samantha's waist. Ladies, you're attracting attention. Good. I raised my voice slightly. Let's attract more. Tell everyone how you and my father— Careful, Oliver interrupted, his smile never wavering. Your mother warned you about consequences. Are you threatening me at your own engagement party? I'm reminding you that family loyalty goes both ways. He took the documents from Samantha's hands. Speaking of loyalty, did you know your boyfriend's been looking into offshore accounts, following money trails he shouldn't? My heart stopped. What did you do? Nothing yet. Tom's garage is struggling, isn't it? Be a shame if his licenses were revoked, or if Margaret's pension suddenly disappeared. Samantha's face went pale. Oliver, you said no one would get hurt. No one has to get hurt. He tucked the documents into his jacket. Right, Michelle? Before I could respond, my father's voice boomed through the speakers. If I could have everyone's attention— He stood on the small stage, campaign smile firmly in place. Tonight, we celebrate not just love, but family. Oliver isn't just marrying my daughter. He's joining our legacy of service to this community. The crowd applauded. I watched my mother dab at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, the perfect picture of maternal joy. But her hands shook. Michelle! Samantha grabbed my arm. There's something you need to know about the education project. It wasn't just money laundering. They were moving other things through the school accounts. Dangerous things. What things? I've seen documents. In Oliver's office. Dad's not just running for mayor to boost his ego. They need someone in position to— Samantha, Oliver's voice cut through the applause. Your father's waiting. She squeezed my arm once, hard, then pulled away. I watched her join Oliver on stage, accepting congratulations and playing her part perfectly. My phone buzzed. A text from Tom. Got into the offshore accounts. You need to see this. But Michelle, be careful. These aren't just local connections. Another buzz. An unknown number. Miss Sanders, we know what you're doing. Last warning. Walk away. I looked up to find my father staring at me from the stage, his expression unreadable. Oliver whispered something in Samantha's ear, making her laugh, but her eyes were desperate when they met mine. The recording device felt heavy against my skin. One press of a button and I could expose everything. But Oliver's threats echoed in my mind. Tom's garage, Margaret's pension, Samantha's safety. My mother appeared beside me, pressing a fresh glass of champagne into my hand. "It's not too late," she whispered, "to choose family." I watched Oliver kiss my sister for the cameras, saw my father shake hands with what I now knew were more than just campaign donors. The truth would destroy them all. But maybe that's what they deserved. I raised my glass. Decision made. Sometimes protecting family meant burning everything to the ground. The news broke like a thunderstorm. Headlines screamed across every local paper. Mayoral candidate's criminal past exposed. Sanders family linked to money laundering scheme. Education scandal rocks city. My recording from the engagement party, along with Tom's financial evidence, had done its work. I hadn't expected the fire at Tom's garage. "Total loss," the fire marshal said, standing in the smoking ruins. "Looks like an electrical fault, but we'll investigate." Tom's face was ash-streaked as he surveyed his destroyed livelihood. "Everything's gone. The cars, the equipment, my clients' projects." The message was clear. Oliver's warning made real. My phone hadn't stopped ringing since the story broke. Samantha's number flashed again, but I let it go to voicemail. The last time we spoke, she'd been hysterical, torn between gratitude for exposing Oliver and horror at the consequences. "Your father's at the station," Margaret said, appearing beside me. "They're questioning him about the offshore accounts." "Good. Michelle," her voice softened. "They're questioning Tom, too, about insurance fraud." My stomach lurched. "That's impossible. He wouldn't." "Oliver's thorough. He's planted a paper trail." She handed me her phone, showing emails that seemed to implicate Tom in a scheme to burn down his own garage for insurance money. "They're coming to arrest him this afternoon." Tom approached, his shoulders heavy. "You should go, before they get here." "I'm not leaving you." "This isn't your fault," he said. But we both knew it was a lie. A sleek black car pulled up, and my father stepped out. He looked older, defeated, but his eyes burned with familiar anger when they met mine. "Are you happy now?" he demanded, crossing the debris-strewn lot. "You've destroyed everything. Your sister's engagement, my campaign, your mother's reputation. You destroyed those things," I shot back. "I just exposed the truth." "The truth?" He laughed bitterly. "You exposed nothing. Oliver's connections run deeper than you know. By tomorrow, every piece of evidence you gathered will be discredited. Tom will be in jail, Margaret's pension will vanish, and you'll be the troubled daughter who fabricated lies about her family for attention." Police sirens wailed in the distance. "Dad," I whispered, "please, don't let them take Tom." Something flickered in his eyes. Regret, maybe, or pity. "You chose this path, Michelle. Actions have consequences." The sirens grew closer. Tom squeezed my hand once, then let go. "Run," he murmured. I didn't run. I watched them handcuff him, reciting rights he already knew. Watched Margaret turn away, shoulders shaking. Watched my father climb back into his black car, leaving me standing in the ashes of my revenge. My phone buzzed. A text from Samantha. "Oliver's gone. Emptied our accounts. Dad knew he would. We were all just pawns." Another buzz. My mother. "Come home, please, before it's too late." Final buzz. Unknown number. "Ms. Sanders, perhaps now you understand the cost of justice. There's still time to recant your story." I stared at the messages until they blurred, thinking of Tom in handcuffs, of Margaret's lost pension, of Samantha's emptied accounts. My evidence discredited, my reputation destroyed, my loved ones suffering, all because I thought truth would be enough to fight power. The fire marshal approached, notebook in hand. "Ms. Sanders, we have some questions about your whereabouts last night." Of course they did. Oliver's web was complete. I'd tried to burn down my family's facade, but I'd only succeeded in burning everything else. My father's words echoed. Actions have consequences. I looked at the ruins of Tom's garage, smelling smoke and defeat. Sometimes the price of revenge isn't just burning everything to the ground. It's watching the flames consume the wrong things while the real monsters walk away unscathed. The marshal waited expectantly. In the distance, another police car approached. I had started this fire. Now I had to decide. Let it consume me or find a way to rise from the ashes. I found Samantha in our childhood treehouse, huddled in the corner like we used to hide during thunderstorms. The wooden planks creaked under my weight as I climbed in, the familiar scent of cedar mixing with rain. "I kept everything," she whispered, pushing a box toward me. Every document, every transaction, every meeting Oliver had with Dad's connections. I was supposed to destroy them after the wedding. My hands trembled as I opened the box. "You knew? All this time?" "I thought I could change things from the inside. Play their game, gain their trust." She laughed bitterly. "I was just another puppet." Headlights swept across the treehouse. A car door slammed. "They're here," Samantha said. "Dad and Oliver. They tracked the missing files to my computer." "We need to go." "No," she grabbed my arm. "I'm done running, done pretending." Footsteps crunched on wet grass. Our father's voice carried up. "Girls, come down. Let's handle this like family." "Family?" Samantha called back, her voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. "Like you handled Margaret's career? Or Tom's garage?" "That was business," Oliver's smooth voice replied. "Nothing personal. Everything's personal." I pulled out my phone, pressed record. Every life you destroyed, every person you threatened. Our father appeared at the treehouse entrance, Oliver close behind. In the dim light, they looked almost identical, power wearing human skin. "The evidence is gone," Oliver said. "Your credibility's shot. What do you think that recording will accomplish?" "It's not for the public." Samantha stood, another phone in her hand. "It's for your real partners, the ones who don't know you've been skimming from their accounts." Our father's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "I'm a financial analyst, Daddy. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the patterns, the missing millions? Oliver's been playing both sides, using your connections to build his own power base." Oliver's smooth facade cracked. "Richard, she's lying." "Show them," I said. Samantha pressed a button. Numbers filled her screen. Transactions, dates, accounts. I sent copies to everyone. Your partners, your rivals, the FBI. Should be hitting their inboxes right about now. Oliver lunged for the phone. Our father grabbed him, surprising us all. "You used me?" he snarled. "Used my family?" "Like you used everyone else," I cut in. "The teachers, the school, your own daughters. We learned from the best, didn't we, Dad?" Sirens wailed in the distance. Oliver wrenched free, scrambled down the ladder. Our father watched him run, something like pride mixing with fury on his face. "You'll destroy everything," he said quietly. "No." Samantha moved to stand beside me. "We're just starting over, the right way." The sirens grew closer. Our father looked at us, really looked at us, for the first time in years. "I wanted to give you everything." "You gave us chains," I said. "We're choosing freedom." He nodded slowly, then turned and walked away. We watched from the treehouse as police cars flooded the driveway, as Oliver was caught trying to scale the back fence, as our father surrendered quietly on the front lawn. Our mother appeared below, looking up with tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she called. I should have been stronger. Samantha squeezed my hand. We all should have been. Later, as dawn broke over our shattered family's estate, we sat in the treehouse watching federal agents cart away boxes of evidence. Tom's lawyer called. All charges dropped. Margaret's pension was being reinstated. What happens now? Samantha asked. I thought about revenge, about justice, about the fine line between the two. We rebuild, not their way, our way. She nodded, understanding. The truth hadn't just exposed our family's corruption, it had freed us from it. Sometimes protecting family meant destroying the lies that bound it together. The sun rose higher, casting long shadows through the treehouse slats. For the first time since this all began, they didn't look like prison bars anymore. The Sanders estate sold for less than market value, its pristine facade unable to hide the scandal's taint. I stood in my father's empty study, running my fingers over the mahogany desk where he'd built his empire of lies. The room still smelled of his cologne and power. Found this in the safe, Samantha said from the doorway, holding a worn leather journal. Mom's writing. The pages were filled with our mother's elegant script, dreams and regrets bleeding together across decades. One entry caught my eye. The girls are 5 today. Michelle questions everything, while Samantha watches and learns. Richard says this is a problem. I wonder if it's actually the solution. She knew, I whispered. All along, she knew what we'd become. Samantha perched on the desk's edge. Did we do the right thing? Through the window, I watched Tom directing movers, his garage rebuilt with insurance money and community support. Margaret stood nearby, supervising the loading of boxes marked Sanders Family Trust, evidence heading to federal investigators. We did the necessary thing, I said. My phone buzzed, a message from our father's lawyer. He'd accepted a plea deal, turning state's evidence against Oliver's broader network. Oliver himself had disappeared, leaving behind a web of shell companies and broken promises. Mom's asking to see us, Samantha said quietly, at the beach house. Are you going? Are you? The journal's pages rustled between us, heavy with unspoken words. Our mother's final entry was dated the night of the engagement party. My daughters are stronger together than Richard and I ever were apart. They'll burn it all down, but from the ashes, they'll build something true. The doorbell rang. Prospective buyers for the estate. We left the study, our footsteps echoing through empty halls once filled with perfect lies. Family portraits watched our exit, faces frozen in practiced smiles that now seemed more like grimaces. In the driveway, Tom wrapped an arm around my waist. Ready? I looked at my childhood home, remembering the dinner that started everything, the threat in my father's voice, the weight of expectations, the suffocating need to maintain appearances. The beach house, I told Samantha. Tomorrow. She nodded, understanding flowing between us like it had in the treehouse. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt, but others could be redesigned, made stronger by acknowledging their flaws. Margaret approached, holding a small box. Found this in the attic. Thought you might want it. Inside was a crude clay sculpture, 2 intertwined figures, barely recognizable as human. Samantha laughed. Our 3rd-grade art project. Mom kept it. Some things are worth preserving, Margaret said softly. I placed the sculpture in my bag, next to our mother's journal. The past couldn't be erased, but it could be understood, integrated into something new. The buyers emerged from the house, talking excitedly about renovation plans. They saw potential where we saw shadows, possibility where we knew secrets lay buried. They'll make it their own, Samantha said, like we're doing. She smiled, a real smile, not the perfect Sanders version we'd been taught. Exactly like that. We left separately, Samantha to her downtown loft, me to the small house Tom and I had bought near his rebuilt garage. The estate's gates closed behind us with a final resonant clang. Tomorrow, we'd face our mother, hear her story, decide what pieces of our old life were worth carrying forward. Some questions would remain unanswered, some wounds would never fully heal. But as I drove away, watching the Sanders estate shrink in my rearview mirror, I realized revenge hadn't been about destroying our family after all. It had been about destroying the lies that kept us from being one in the first place. The clay sculpture shifted in my bag, the intertwined figures still holding each other after all these years. Some bonds, I realized, were stronger than the forces trying to break them. And sometimes, the truest form of family emerged only after everything else burned away.
I stared at the invitation card in my hands, tracing my fingers over the embossed letters. Another celebration of someone else's perfect life. The thought of spending 3 hours at Jessica's engagement party made my stomach turn, but Megan wouldn't let me skip it. "You need to get out," she'd said, as if emerging from my cocoon of Netflix and takeout would magically fix everything. "You made it." Megan's voice cut through the party's ambient noise. She pulled me into a hug that smelled of expensive perfume and concern. "And you look... well, you're here. Thanks for the ringing endorsement." I smoothed down my black dress, wondering if I should have worn something more colorful. Less funeral chic. "Sophie, honey, you know what I mean." She pressed a glass of wine into my hand. "Just try to enjoy yourself. Talk to people. Who knows? Maybe you'll meet someone interesting. Because that worked out so well last time." The wine tasted bitter, but I drank it anyway. The party swirled around me in a blur of forced laughter and clinking glasses. I found myself drifting toward the edges, watching couples lean into each other, share private jokes, steal quick kisses. Each display of affection felt like a personal attack, a reminder of what I'd lost, or maybe never really had. "You look about as thrilled to be here as I am." I turned to find a man leaning against the wall beside me, his tie slightly loosened, holding a beer like it was a lifeline. Something about his casual disarray made me smile. "That obvious, huh? Well, you've been staring at that plant for 5 minutes like it personally offended you." He gestured toward the potted fern I'd apparently been glaring at. "I'm Ryan." "Sophie." I took another sip of wine. "And that plant did offend me. It's being all green and alive while my succulents keep committing suicide." He laughed, and something in my chest loosened slightly. "Aw, a serial plant killer. Should I be concerned?" "Only if you're photosynthetic." The conversation flowed easier than I expected. Ryan worked in IT, loved terrible sci-fi movies, and had strong opinions about pineapple on pizza. He didn't ask why I was alone at the party, didn't try to fill every silence with meaningless chatter. It felt comfortable. "Want to get out of here?" he asked after our third drink. "There's a great burger place around the corner. Real food, no tiny appetizers that leave you hunting for crumbs." I hesitated. Megan's warning voice echoed in my head, "Too soon, Sophie. Give yourself time to heal." But Ryan's smile held no pressure, no hidden agenda. Just a simple invitation to escape this suffocating parade of happiness. "You know what?" "Yes." I set down my empty glass. "Lead the way." As we slipped out of the party, I caught Megan's eye across the room. She raised an eyebrow, and I gave her a small wave. Later, she'd demand details, worry about my judgment, remind me of all the reasons I shouldn't jump into anything new. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was making a mistake. But watching Ryan navigate through the crowded streets, pointing out ridiculous shop names and making up stories about passing strangers, I felt something I hadn't in months, possibility. I didn't know then that this moment, this simple decision to follow a stranger into the night, would set in motion events that would shatter my world all over again. That Ryan's easy smile concealed depths I couldn't begin to imagine. That sometimes the most dangerous traps are the ones that feel like escape routes. But that night, I just wanted to feel something other than broken. And Ryan. He was very good at making things feel whole again. At least for a while. 6 months flew by like a highlight reel of perfect moments. Ryan and I fell into an easy rhythm, late-night conversations that stretched until dawn, spontaneous road trips to nowhere. Inside jokes that made strangers stare when we burst out laughing in public. He had a way of making everything feel lighter, more vibrant. "You're different," Megan said over coffee one morning. "Happier." But what? I stirred my latte, watching the foam swirl. "I don't know. Sometimes the way he looks at you. It's like he's memorizing you. Like he's afraid you'll disappear." I laughed it off, but her words stuck with me. Maybe because I'd noticed it too, those moments when Ryan's smile would fade, and something darker would flicker across his face. But then he'd pull me close, whisper something ridiculous in my ear, and the moment would pass. The night he proposed, we were arguing about pizza toppings. "Pineapple is an abomination," he declared, waving a slice like a conductor's baton. "It's a violation of natural law. Says the man who puts ranch dressing on everything." "That's different." He set down his pizza, suddenly serious. "You know what else is different? The way you've changed everything in my life." Before I could process the shift in conversation, he was on one knee, holding out a ring that caught the dim light of my kitchen. "Marry me, Sophie. Be my partner in crime, my fellow pizza critic, my—" "Yes," I interrupted, my heart racing. "Yes to everything except the anti-pineapple agenda." The ring slid onto my finger perfectly. Too perfectly, I'd realize later. As if he'd planned this moment down to the smallest detail. That night, lying in bed, Ryan traced patterns on my arm. "We should meet my mother," he said quietly. "She'll want to help with the wedding." "Of course." I turned to face him. "Tell me about her." His hand stilled. "She's traditional. Protective. Dad left when I was young, so it was just us for a long time." Something in his voice made me prop myself up on an elbow. "You don't talk about her much." "Not much to say." He pulled me back down, nuzzling my neck. "She'll love you. Everyone loves you." Meeting Linda Carter was like walking into a time capsule. Her house was immaculate, every surface gleaming, every photo frame perfectly aligned. She hugged me with practiced warmth. "So lovely to finally meet you," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Ryan's told me so much. All good things, I hope." I laughed, but it felt hollow in the pristine living room. "Of course." She patted Ryan's cheek as she passed. "My boy only sees the good in people. It's his greatest strength. And sometimes his greatest weakness." Ryan tensed beside me. I felt his fingers twitch against my back. Over dinner, Linda dominated the conversation, peppering me with questions about my family, my job, my plans for children. Each answer seemed to disappoint her slightly. "Marketing." She raised an eyebrow. "Such an unstable field these days. And you travel for work." "Sometimes," I admitted. "But Ryan needs stability," she cut in. "Structure. After everything with his father. Mother." Ryan's voice carried a warning edge I'd never heard before. "I'm just saying, dear." She reached across the table, straightening his collar with practiced fingers. "We have to be careful, don't we? The drive home was silent. I watched Ryan's knuckles whiten on the steering wheel. I'm sorry about her, he finally said. She means well. It's fine. I touched his arm. She loves you. He laughed, but it sounded wrong. Yeah. She does. That night, I caught him staring at his phone, thumbs hovering over the keyboard. When he noticed me watching, he quickly locked the screen. Work stuff, he said, too casually. Tom needs help with a project. I nodded, ignoring the knot forming in my stomach. Later, I'd remember this moment as the first crack in our perfect story, the instant when doubt crept in like a shadow at sunset. Subtle but undeniable. But for now, I curled into his side, breathing in his familiar scent, telling myself that love was enough. That some stories really do have happy endings. I was wrong about that too. The dishes had been sitting in the sink for 3 days. 3 days of walking past them, of watching Ryan grab clean mugs from the cabinet while dirty ones festered below. I'd stopped counting how many times I'd asked him to help with housework. His promises had become as stale as the coffee rings in those abandoned cups. I thought you were going to handle those, I said, watching him scroll through his phone on the couch. Later. He didn't look up. I'm dealing with a work crisis. The same excuse he'd used yesterday. And the day before. I picked up his discarded socks from the floor, fighting the urge to throw them at his head. Tom needs help with the server migration, he added, as if reading my thoughts. It's important. More important than our agreement about sharing responsibilities. He finally looked up, his expression shifting into that wounded puppy look I'd once found endearing. Come on, Sophie. You know how crazy work's been lately. And my work isn't crazy. I managed to do laundry between client calls yesterday. That's different. He set down his phone. You're just better at this stuff. More organized. The word hit me like a slap. Better at it? Or just more willing to do it while you play helpless? I'm not playing anything. His voice took on that edge I'd been hearing more frequently. Why are you making such a big deal about dishes? Because it's not about the dishes. The words exploded out of me. It's about respect. About being partners instead of me being your replacement mother. His face darkened. Don't bring my mother into this. Why not? She's already here in every other way. I gestured at the living room, where he'd arranged the furniture exactly as Linda had suggested. God forbid we make any decision without consulting her first. She's trying to help. He stood up, towering over me. Unlike some people, who just criticize everything I do. When do you do anything? The words tasted bitter. Besides work and text Tom at all hours. Something flickered across his face, guilt. Fear. But it vanished so quickly I might have imagined it. I need some air. He grabbed his keys. Call Linda if you want help cleaning. She'd love to show you how it's done properly. The door slammed behind him. I stood in the silence, surrounded by evidence of his passive presence, half-empty water glasses, abandoned charging cables. A trail of emotional breadcrumbs leading nowhere. My phone buzzed. Megan. How's married bliss? She asked when I answered. Remember when you said something felt off about Ryan? Which time? I sank onto the couch. He's different now. Or maybe he's exactly the same and I'm finally seeing it clearly. What happened? Nothing. Everything. I picked at a loose thread on the cushion, another task Ryan had promised to fix. It's like living with a ghost who leaves dirty dishes instead of rattling chains. Have you talked to him about it? I've tried. He either deflects or runs to Linda. The thread came loose in my hand. Did I tell you she called yesterday to remind me about his favorite breakfast? Apparently, I'm not cooking his eggs right. Jesus. Megan paused. Sophie, remember what happened with Mark? How you kept making excuses for him until... This is different, I cut her off, even as doubt gnawed at my certainty. Ryan's not Mark. He's just... struggling with something. And you're not his therapist. Her voice softened. Or his mother, no matter what Linda thinks. After we hung up, I wandered into the kitchen. The dishes seemed to mock me, a porcelain monument to broken promises. I reached for the sponge, then stopped. Instead, I took a photo of the mess and sent it to Ryan with a simple message: either these are done when I get home from work tomorrow, or we need to have a serious conversation about our future. His response came hours later: sorry. Got caught up with Tom. We'll handle it tomorrow. I stared at those words until they blurred, remembering how he used to send me random messages throughout the day, jokes, heart emojis. Pictures of dogs he saw on his lunch break. When had Tom become more important than us? The answer would come soon enough, though not in any way I could have predicted. Sometimes the biggest betrayals hide in the smallest details, like dishes in a sink. Or late-night texts to a coworker who isn't really a coworker at all. The credit card statement arrived on a Tuesday. I almost missed it among the usual bills and junk mail, but Ryan's nervous glance as I opened the envelope caught my attention. $300 at La Maison, that upscale French restaurant downtown. Another $200 at Jensen's Jewelers. Dates I'd been working late, supposedly while he was debugging with Tom. Want to explain these charges? I slid the statement across the kitchen counter. He barely glanced at it. Work expenses. I'll get reimbursed. Funny. I called your office yesterday about the company holiday party. Sharon said you haven't submitted an expense report in months. The color drained from his face. You called my office. After you missed another couples therapy session. I watched him fidget with his wedding ring. Tom covered for you. Said you were in a meeting. Except you told me you were working from home that day. Sophie. Don't. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Just tell me who she is. There's no one. He reached for my hand. I pulled away. You're being paranoid. Like your mother when. Don't you dare bring my mother into this. The rage surprised me with its intensity. You lost that right when you started lying to my face. His phone buzzed on the counter. We both stared at it. The preview notification showed a message from Tom, and wants to know if you're still on for. Ryan lunged for the phone, but I was faster. The full message burned into my brain, and wants to know if you're still on for dinner. She's wearing that dress you liked. It's not what you think. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar it hurt. Emily's just a friend from work. Tom's friend, actually. We're all just friends. I laughed at the sound sharp enough to make him flinch. Is that what you told Linda too? Something dark flashed across his face. Leave my mother out of this. Why? She's already involved, isn't she? The pieces were falling into place. All those Sunday brunches when I was traveling for work. Those long phone calls about your childhood memories. She's been covering for you this whole time. She's protecting me. His voice cracked. She understands that sometimes people make mistakes. Mistakes. I held up the credit card statement. This isn't a mistake, Ryan. This is a choice. Multiple choices, made over and over. He slumped against the counter, suddenly looking smaller. I never meant to hurt you. That's the problem. You never mean to do anything. Things just happen to you, right? Poor Ryan, always the victim, never responsible. His phone buzzed again. Another message from Tom. Emily's getting impatient. Should I tell her you're not coming? Tell her yourself. I tossed the phone at him. I'm sure she'll understand. She probably knows all about your mother's protection by now. Sophie, please. He caught my arm as I turned to leave. We can fix this. I'll go to therapy. I'll. Let go of me. My voice was ice. Or I'll call Linda right now and tell her exactly why her perfect son is about to lose another relationship. He released me like I'd burned him. We stood there, the kitchen counter between us like a battlefield, years of lies and enabling scattered like shrapnel. I'm staying at Megan's tonight. I grabbed my keys. Don't call me. Don't text me. And definitely don't send Tom to make excuses for you. At the door, I paused. You know what's funny? I actually felt guilty for suspecting you. For thinking you might be like Mark. Turns out you're worse. At least he had the decency to admit what he was. I love you, he whispered. No, Ryan. You love the idea of me. The perfect wife who'd never question you, never challenge you. Just like Linda taught you to expect. I left him standing there, surrounded by the evidence of his betrayal. My phone lit up with notifications, Linda's number, then Tom's, then Ryan's. I blocked them all. Later, Megan would ask if I was okay. I'd tell her I was fine, but the truth was more complicated. I wasn't just hurt or angry. I was awakening to a cold, clear rage that demanded more than just walking away. Ryan and Linda had written this story together. Now it was my turn to write the ending. The house was spotless when I returned from my business trip. Not just tidy, sanitized. Every surface gleamed, every pillow sat at a perfect angle, like a showroom waiting for potential buyers. The air smelled of lemon cleaner and lies. My suitcase wheels echoed on the hardwood as I moved through our staged perfection. A woman's scarf lay coiled on the entry table, not mine. Designer label. The kind Ryan always said we couldn't afford. I picked it up, the silk sliding through my fingers like water. Like truth. My phone buzzed. Linda. Sophie, dear. Ryan mentioned you were coming home today. I thought we could have dinner. Whose scarf is this? My voice sounded foreign, distant. A pause. Too long. What scarf? The Hermes scarf on my entry table. The one that costs more than our monthly mortgage. Oh. Another pause. I must have left it when I came to help Ryan straighten up. He mentioned you like things. Particular. The lie hung between us, as delicate as the scarf in my hands. Funny. The receipt still attached. Dated yesterday. Sophie. I ended the call, letting the silence wash over me. In the kitchen, a wine glass sat in the dish rack, lipstick stains in a shade I'd never wear. The garbage was empty, but a crumpled receipt by the can caught my eye. La Maison again. Dinner for two, last night. My phone lit up with Ryan's face. I let it ring. The bedroom door creaked open. Everything was perfect here too, fresh sheets, hospital corners, his dress shirts hanging with military precision. But the air felt wrong. Perfumed. The bathroom counter held the final evidence, a long dark hair caught in my hairbrush. Mine were blonde. Ryan's key turned in the lock downstairs. I heard him calling my name, his footsteps on the stairs. I sat on our perfectly made bed, holding the brush like a weapon. Sophie. You're home early. He appeared in the doorway, tie loosened, smile faltering as he saw my face. I was going to pick you up from the airport. Like you picked up Emily last night. The name hit him like a physical blow. Who? Please. I stood, brush still in hand. Don't insult what's left of us with more lies. It's not. He stopped, seeing the scarf dangling from my other hand. I can explain. Can you explain the wine glass? The receipt. The fucking Hermes scarf that costs more than you said we could afford for my birthday. You don't understand. He stepped forward. I stepped back. Emily's going through a rough time. Her husband. Is she married too? The laugh that escaped me sounded hysterical. Did Linda help you pick her out? Someone suitably broken for you to fix. Leave my mother out of this. Why? She's already in it. Up to her enabling neck. I threw the scarf at him. Did she help you clean up too? Make everything perfect before the wife came home. His face changed, something dark and familiar crossing it. You're being hysterical. Just like when. When what? When I suspected something was wrong. When I asked why you were working late every Thursday. When I wondered why Tom suddenly couldn't look me in the eye. Each question landed like a blow. He retreated, back hitting the doorframe. Sophie, please. We can work through this. I'll go to counseling. I'll. Stop. My voice cracked. Just stop pretending you want to fix this. You had months to fix it. Years. His phone buzzed in his pocket. We both froze. Answer it, I said. It's probably Emily, wondering why you're late for dinner. I love you, he whispered. No. I placed the hairbrush carefully on the dresser, aligning it perfectly with the edge. You love having someone to blame when things go wrong. Someone to clean up after. Someone to lie to. I walked past him, down the stairs, through the pristine rooms that had never really been ours. Behind me, his phone kept buzzing, a persistent reminder of promises about to be broken. Outside, the evening air felt clean. Real. I got in my car, hands steady on the wheel, and called Megan. I need your help, I said when she answered. I need to destroy him. The silence on the other end wasn't judgment. It was understanding. Come over, she said. We'll make a plan. The divorce papers sat between us like a landmine. Ryan's lawyer kept glancing at his phone while mine reviewed the terms one last time. The conference room felt too small, too sterile for the death of a marriage. Mrs. Carter, if you'll sign here. Miller, I corrected. I'm keeping my name. Ryan flinched. Good. His signature came first, practiced, perfect, just like his lies. I watched the pen move across the page, remembering how he'd signed our marriage license with that same flourish. When it was my turn, I made my signature sharp, angular. A weapon. There's one more thing. I pulled out a USB drive. Evidence of financial misconduct at Carter Technologies. Ryan's head snapped up. What? Interesting emails between you and the accounting department. Creative expense reports. That sort of thing. His lawyer leaned forward. Miss Miller, if you're attempting to blackmail. Not blackmail. Insurance. I slid the drive across the table. Everything's already backed up. I just thought Ryan should know what I found while cleaning our perfect house. The color drained from Ryan's face. You wouldn't. Like you wouldn't sleep with Emily. Like you wouldn't let your mother orchestrate our entire marriage. Sophie, please. His voice cracked. Think about what this would do to the company. To my career. I have. For 3 weeks, 4 days, and, I checked my watch, 6 hours. About as long as you thought about our marriage before destroying it. His lawyer whispered something urgent. Ryan ignored him. What do you want? Nothing. I stood, smoothing my skirt. Consider it a parting gift. A reminder that perfect facades crack eventually. Outside, Megan waited in her car. How'd it go? He signed. I buckled my seatbelt, hands shaking. And I gave him the drive. Empty. Loaded. Every fraudulent expense report, every manipulated budget. 3 years of creative accounting, all tied to his employee ID. Jesus. Megan pulled into traffic. What if he goes to the police? With what evidence? An empty threat from his bitter ex-wife. I laughed, but it sounded hollow. Besides, Linda would never let him risk the family reputation. My phone buzzed. Linda's number. You vindictive little, she started. Careful, Linda. Wouldn't want to say something unladylike. He trusted you. And I trusted him. Funny how that worked out. I'll destroy you. Her voice trembled with rage. I'll make sure you never work in this town again. I cut her off. Check your email. I sent you something interesting about Ryan's special project fund. The one that paid for Emily's gifts. The line went dead. Megan glanced over. You okay? No. My voice broke. I thought this would feel better. Like winning. It's not about winning anymore, is it? I don't know what it's about. I stared out the window, watching the city blur past. I keep waiting to feel something besides empty. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Sophie. A woman's voice, familiar from voicemails I'd found. It's Emily. We need to talk. The world tilted sideways. About what? About Ryan. About what he did to both of us. She paused. And about what he's planning to do now. What do you mean? He's not who we thought he was. Either of us. Her voice shook. Meet me at La Maison tonight. 7 o'clock. Come alone. The line went dead before I could respond. Megan pulled over. Who was that? Emily. I showed her the call log. She wants to meet. It's a trap. Probably. I closed my eyes, remembering the perfect house, the perfect lies. But what if it's not? Sophie. I need to know. I opened my eyes, decision made. Drop me at my apartment. I'll take my own car. This isn't how revenge is supposed to work, Megan said softly. Maybe it's not about revenge anymore. I touched the divorce papers in my bag. Maybe it's about truth. The truth, I'd learn later, was far worse than any revenge I could have planned. But sitting there, watching the city lights come on, I still believed in answers. In closure. In the possibility that understanding why might hurt less than not knowing it all. I was wrong about that too. Emily wasn't at La Maison. Instead, I found Megan waiting at the bar, her face ashen. Ryan's in the hospital, she said before I could speak. Psychiatric hold. He tried to, she stopped, hands trembling around her wine glass. The world tilted sideways. When? An hour ago. Tom found him in the office. She pulled out her phone, showing me a text. He left notes. For you, Linda. Emily. My revenge fantasy crumbled like ash in my mouth. Is he stable? But Sophie, there's more. She glanced around the restaurant. Emily's there too. She's been admitted for 3 days. The pieces clicked together with nauseating clarity. They're in the same facility. Different wings. Megan hesitated. She tried to leave him last week. He didn't take it well. The drive to Riverside Psychiatric Center felt endless. Security checked my ID twice before letting me through. The hall smelled of industrial cleaner and despair. Emily sat in the common room, wearing hospital scrubs, her designer confidence stripped away. Purple bruises ringed her wrist. He said I was just like you, she said when I sat down. Strong. Independent. In need of fixing. Did he hurt you? Not physically. Not at first. She touched her wrist. He just got in my head. Made me doubt everything. Then when I tried to leave. Emily. Linda's voice cut through the room like a blade. She stood in the doorway, perfectly coiffed even here. What lies are you telling now? The truth, I said, standing. For once, let's all tell the truth. Linda's mask cracked. You did this. Both of you. You pushed him too hard, expected too much. We expected basic human decency, Emily snapped. Not to be manipulated, gaslit, controlled. He loves deeply. Too deeply sometimes. Linda's voice wavered. After his father left. Stop. I stepped closer. Just stop. This isn't about his father. Or us. It's about you. How dare you? You taught him this. The words burned like acid. Taught him to manipulate, to play victim, to blame everyone else. And when that didn't work, you cleaned up his messes. Like the restraining order his college girlfriend filed. The complaints at his last job. Linda went white. How did you? I'm good at research. Better at revenge. I pulled out my phone, showing her the documents. But this isn't revenge anymore. It's intervention. He needs help, Emily added softly. Real help. Not enablers. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Miss Miller. Mr. Carter's asking for you. Linda moved to follow. I blocked her path. No. For once, you're going to let him face consequences. Ryan looked small in the hospital bed, wrists bandaged, eyes hollow. When he saw me, something flickered across his face, shame. Relief. Fear. I'm sorry, he whispered. I know. I didn't mean. You never do. I sat in the visitor's chair. That's the problem, Ryan. You never mean to hurt anyone. You just do. Help me. His voice cracked. Please. Like you always do. No. The word felt like freedom. I'm not here to help you. Or hurt you. I'm here to say goodbye. Sophie. Emily's down the hall. I watched him flinch. She's not helping you either. Neither is Linda. Tears slid down his face. Then why are you here? Because someone needs to tell you the truth. You're not the victim here. You're not the hero. You're just a man who never learned to take responsibility for his actions. I love you, he tried. No. You love the idea of being loved. There's a difference. I stood. Get help, Ryan. Real help. Not for me, not for Emily, not for Linda. For yourself. At the door, I paused. I'm sending copies of everything, the financial records, the restraining orders, everything, to the hospital staff. They need to know what they're dealing with. That's your revenge. His laugh sounded broken. More exposure. No. My revenge was letting you face yourself. I met his eyes one last time. Goodbye, Ryan. In the hallway, Emily and Linda waited, two women broken by the same man in different ways. We looked at each other, understanding passing between us without words. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. Sometimes it's about truth. And sometimes truth is the hardest revenge of all. The letter arrived on a crisp autumn morning, hand-delivered to my office. Ryan's precise handwriting on the envelope made my fingers tremble as I opened it. Inside, a single page filled with words I'd once longed to hear. I'm starting to understand what you meant about facing myself. The doctors say I'm making progress. Mother hasn't visited in weeks, her choice, not mine. Maybe that's progress too. Emily dropped the charges. She's stronger than either of us knew. Like you. I keep thinking about that night we met, how you said you'd never trust anyone again. I made you break that promise to yourself. I'm sorry for that most of all. I folded the letter, tucking it into my desk drawer without responding. Outside my window, the city sprawled beneath gray skies, unchanged yet completely different from the view I'd had when this all began. My phone buzzed. Megan. You busy? She asked. Emily's downstairs. My heart stuttered. Here. She wants to talk. About the support group. The elevator ride felt endless. Emily waited in the lobby, looking both familiar and strange, stronger, somehow. Scarred but standing. I'm starting one, she said without preamble. A support group. For women like us. Like us. The ones who survived men like Ryan. And women like Linda. She pulled out a business card. We meet Thursdays. If you're interested. I studied the card. Why me? Because you did what I couldn't. You saw through him without losing yourself. She touched her wrist, where the bruises had faded but the memory hadn't. And because sometimes revenge isn't enough. Sometimes we need to turn it into something else. My phone buzzed again. Linda's number. Take it, Emily said. I'll wait. Linda's voice sounded older, tired. Ryan's being released next week. I know. The letter's weight pressed against my desk upstairs. He wants to see you. No. A pause. Sophie. You don't get to ask me for anything anymore, Linda. Neither does he. He's changed. Maybe. But I have too. I watched Emily through the lobby windows, her reflection overlapping with mine. Goodbye, Linda. I hung up before she could respond. She still thinks she can fix him, Emily said when I returned. She can't. No. Emily smiled sadly. But maybe we can fix what he broke in us. Upstairs, I pulled out Ryan's letter again. Below it in the drawer lay the evidence I'd gathered, financial records, restraining orders, a history of manipulation carefully documented. My perfect revenge, never used. Megan appeared in my doorway. You okay? I thought revenge would feel like winning. I held up the letter. But this feels better. What does? Living well. I dropped the letter in the shredder, watching it disappear. Moving forward. The support group. I picked up Emily's card. Maybe. But first, I need to do something. The storage unit felt smaller than I remembered. Boxes of our shared life waited in neat rows, photos, wedding gifts, memories carefully preserved. I'd kept them out of spite, thinking someday I'd want to remember. Now, watching the donation truck load them up, I felt lighter with each box that disappeared. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from an unknown number. Thank you for showing me the truth. Or I deleted it without responding. Some truths don't need acknowledgement. Some revenge is better left unfinished, transforming into something else entirely. Outside, Emily waited in her car. Ready? For what? The future. She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. It's Thursday. I got in, leaving the storage unit and its ghosts behind. We drove through the city, past La Maison, past the house Ryan and I had shared, past all the places where I'd lost and found myself. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply living, breathing, moving forward. Sometimes it's helping others do the same. And sometimes, in the end, that's enough.
Success tastes like vanilla lip gloss and overpriced airport coffee. I'm riding that high, my presentation deck still hot in my laptop bag, the deal I just closed worth more than Jake makes in 2 years. The taxi cuts through evening traffic, and I practice different ways to tell him about the promotion. Maybe this time he'll actually smile. My phone buzzes. Rachel's text reads, "You crushed it, boss lady. Drinks tomorrow?" I type back a quick hell yes before shoving the phone in my purse. The house comes into view, dark except for the bedroom window. Strange. Jake's car is in the driveway, but he usually leaves every light on like he's signaling aircraft. The front door creaks, another thing he promised to fix months ago. Jake? I'm home early. Got some amazing news. Silence answers. Then shuffling upstairs. My heels click against the hardwood as I climb the stairs, each step matching my heartbeat. The bedroom door is ajar, spilling yellow light into the hallway. I push it open. Jake stands by our bed, my clothes scattered across it like fallen leaves. An open suitcase sits in the middle of the chaos. What are you doing? My voice comes out smaller than I intended. He doesn't turn around, just keeps folding my favorite blazer with mechanical precision. What does it look like? It looks like you're packing my things without asking me first. I step closer, grab the blazer from his hands. Stop that. Talk to me. Finally, he faces me. His eyes are red-rimmed, but his voice is steady. I can't do this anymore, Kiara. This. Pretending we're equals when we both know you've left me in the dust. What are you talking about? I just closed the biggest deal of my career, and instead of celebrating with me, you're what, throwing me out? See? That's exactly it. He laughs, but it sounds wrong, like breaking glass. Every conversation circles back to your career, your success, your fucking achievements. When's the last time you asked about my day? My promotion that I didn't get? Again? I reach for his arm. He steps back. Jake, I don't. He holds up a hand. Just don't. You know what Derek said to me yesterday? He said, "Man, your wife's killing it. Not us. Not you and me. Just you." Do you have any idea how that feels? The room spins slightly. I grab the bedpost to steady myself, my knuckles white against the dark wood. So this is about your ego? Because I'm successful? This is about respect. He slams the suitcase shut, making me jump. About being able to look my friends in the eye without wondering if they're pitying me. About not feeling like a fucking failure in my own home. I never made you feel that way. You didn't have to. His voice drops to a whisper. Your existence does it for you. The words hit like a physical blow. I sink onto the edge of the bed, crushing something underneath me. Pulling it out, I recognize the pregnancy test I took this morning. Positive. The one I was going to surprise him with after sharing my promotion news. Jake follows my gaze, sees what I'm holding. For a moment, his face crumples. Then it hardens again, like cement setting. Perfect timing, he says, each word dripping with venom. Now you can be the breadwinner and the mother. The complete package. Who needs me at all? I stand up, my legs shaking but my voice steady. You're right. Who needs you? The test falls from my hand, clattering on the floor between us like a gauntlet thrown. Neither of us moves to pick it up. I'll be at my mother's, I say, grabbing my purse. Send my things there. And Jake? Congratulations. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. I walk out, leaving him standing in a graveyard of designer suits and shattered dreams. My hands don't shake until I'm in the taxi, watching our house disappear in the rearview mirror. Only then do I allow myself to smile, thinking about all the ways I'm going to make him regret this moment. 3 months into the pregnancy, and my mother's guest room feels more like home than the house Jake and I built together. The morning sickness has finally eased, leaving room for a different kind of nausea, the kind that comes from watching your husband pretend everything's fine on social media while he's busy erasing you from his life. He posted another photo with Derek at that new steakhouse, Rachel says, scrolling through her phone during our lunch break. Caption reads, "Living my best life." What a piece of work. I stab at my salad, imagining each cherry tomato is Jake's inflated ego. Let him play happy bachelor. We both know he's dying inside. Speaking of dying. Rachel lowers her voice. The board approved your proposal for the Asian market expansion. Jake's company was counting on that contract. The lettuce suddenly tastes sweeter. You're sure? 100%. Derek let it slip to marketing that Jake's team had already started hiring people for the project. Now they'll have to let them go. My hand instinctively moves to my growing belly. The baby kicks, as if approving my silent satisfaction. The elevator dings, and I spot Linda from HR heading our way. She's wearing that expression that means trouble, the one that makes her look like she's sucking on a lemon. Kiara, do you have a moment? Her voice carries across the break room. It's about your maternity leave paperwork. In her office, Linda slides a form across her desk. Jake called. He's requesting to be removed as your emergency contact and insurance beneficiary. The paper blurs before my eyes. He what? I know this is delicate. But given your situation, we need to update your file. And she hesitates. He mentioned you might be leaving the company soon? My laugh comes out sharp enough to cut glass. Did he now? He seemed quite certain about it. Said you'd discussed focusing on family full-time. I leaned forward, both hands flat on her desk. Linda, let me be crystal clear. The only thing I'm leaving is my marriage. This company, my career, that's not negotiable. That evening, I find my mother in her garden, attacking weeds with the same intensity I'd shown that salad. She looks up when my shadow falls across her work. Jake called here too, she says, not bothering with hello. Wanted to know if you'd come to your senses yet. And? I told him the only sense you've come to is the good kind. She sits back on her heels, studying my face. He's scared, you know. Men like that, when they lose control. They lash out, I finish. Try to take whatever power they can grab. Exactly. She pulls off her gardening gloves. Which is why you need to be smarter. Stronger. More calculated than he is. My phone buzzes, a text from Jake, we need to talk about the house. And the baby. Stop avoiding me. I'm not avoiding anything, I mutter, typing back, lawyer. Everything goes through the lawyer. He's at the door, my mother says suddenly, peering through the kitchen window. Speaking of avoiding. I hear his knock, then his voice, Kiara. I know you're in there. We have to discuss this like adults. My mother moves to answer, but I catch her arm. No. Let him stand there. Let him feel what it's like to be shut out. We sit in the darkened kitchen, listening to his increasingly aggressive knocks. Finally, his voice cracks, please. I made a mistake. I can't stand feeling this way. The baby kicks again, harder this time. I press my hand against the spot, remembering how he couldn't even look at the pregnancy test that night. That's the thing about mistakes, Jake, I whisper, though he can't hear me through the door. They have consequences. His footsteps eventually fade. My mother switches on the light, her face a mix of pride and concern. You're not just protecting yourself anymore, she says, nodding at my belly. No, I agree, already planning my next move. I'm protecting both of us. And I'm going to make sure he never forgets that. Through the window, I watch his car disappear into the darkness, knowing tomorrow will bring another battle. But this time, I'm ready. This time, I'm not the one who'll end up losing everything. The coffee shop across from Jake's office wasn't my usual scene, but it offered the perfect vantage point. I'd been sitting here for an hour, watching Derek's familiar figure pace outside, phone pressed to his ear. The conversation seemed heated, even from this distance. My own phone buzzed, Rachel's daily check-in. You sure about this? Spying isn't exactly your style. I typed back, not spying. Gathering intelligence. The baby shifted restlessly, as if sensing my tension. At 6 months, she was becoming quite the accomplice in my surveillance missions. I rubbed my belly, whispering, just a little longer, sweetheart. Derek finally ended his call and headed inside. I pulled my baseball cap lower, angling my laptop screen to hide my face. He ordered, then slumped into a booth behind me. Jake, man, you need to get it together. Another call. The board's asking questions about the project delays. Yeah, I know it's her fault, but you can't keep telling people she sabotaged it. It looks desperate. My fingers tightened around my cup. Sabotage? That was new. Listen, Derek continued, his voice dropping. People are starting to talk. They're saying you're obsessed, that you're letting your personal shit affect your judgment. The Asian market deal? That wasn't her fault. We lost it fair and square. A pause. Then, no, I'm not taking her side. I'm trying to save your ass before you get fired. You really think telling everyone your pregnant wife stole your clients is a good look? My hand shook as I reached for my phone, opening the voice recorder app. This was better than I'd hoped. The drinking has to stop too, Derek added. Coming to work hungover, missing meetings. Jesus, Jake, you're doing her work for her. She doesn't need revenge when you're self-destructing this spectacularly. I almost felt sorry for Derek. Almost. But he'd enabled Jake's behavior for months, playing the sympathetic friend while watching him spiral. The chair behind me scraped as Derek stood. Fine. Don't listen. But when everything falls apart, remember I warned you. I waited until he left before gathering my things. Outside, the autumn air carried the scent of wood smoke and possibilities. My lawyer would be very interested in this recording. Back at my mother's, I found her in the kitchen with an unexpected visitor. Rachel sat at the counter, clutching a manila envelope. What's wrong? I asked, noting their expressions. Rachel slid the envelope toward me. HR forwarded this to my desk by mistake. It's an email chain between Jake and your company's biggest competitors. He's been trying to warn them away from working with you. My hands trembled as I read. Phrases jumped out: unstable behavior, professional concerns, liability risks. Each word was carefully chosen to cast doubt. To poison potential clients against me without making direct accusations. He's trying to destroy my career, I whispered. all while playing victim at his own company. My mother's face hardened. He's trying to make you dependent. Vulnerable. Classic abuser tactics. No, I said, straightening. He's giving me exactly what I need. Proof. I pulled out my phone, playing Derek's recorded conversation. Rachel's eyes widened. Holy shit, she breathed. With this and the emails? We can prove harassment, I finished. Professional sabotage. And when the baby comes? He won't have a leg to stand on, my mother concluded, a fierce pride in her voice. My phone lit up with Jake's number. For the first time in weeks, I answered. Missing me? I kept my voice honey sweet. Kiara, please. He sounded desperate. I need you to call off whatever you're doing. My job. Everything's falling apart. Funny how that happens when you try to destroy someone else's life. I never. Save it for the lawyers, Jake. And maybe next time, don't put your sabotage attempts in writing. The silence on his end was deafening. Finally, he whispered, You knew? I know everything. I ended the call, feeling the baby kick approvingly. And this is just the beginning. Rachel and my mother exchanged looks. They knew that tone, the one that meant I wasn't just fighting back anymore. I was going for the kill. The pregnancy books never mentioned how revenge could make morning sickness worse. 7 months along, and I'm bent over my mother's toilet, heaving up bile and regret after reading Jake's latest email to my clients. Each word a carefully crafted poison, designed to make me look unstable, unreliable, unworthy of their trust. My phone vibrates against the tile floor. Rachel's text reads, Board meeting in 30. They're discussing your accounts. Jake's brother-in-law is making waves. Of course. I'd forgotten about Michael on the board. Family loyalty runs deep, especially when there's money involved. The doorbell rings as I'm rinsing my mouth. Through the bathroom window, I spot Derek's car in the driveway. My mother's voice drifts up the stairs, polite but steel-edged, she's not receiving visitors. Please, Derek's voice cracks. 5 minutes. It's about Jake. I crack the door open, catching their conversation. He's drinking at work now. Keeping a bottle in his desk. Yesterday he screamed at an intern until she cried, all because she mentioned Kiara's marketing campaign. That sounds like Jake's problem, my mother says. He's going to lose everything. The company's building a case for termination. I thought. Maybe if Kiara talked to him. I step into view, one hand cradling my belly. So I can save him? Again? Like I've been doing our entire marriage? Derek startles, taking in my appearance. Jesus, Kiara. You look. Pregnant? Exhausted? Like someone whose husband is trying to destroy her career while drinking himself into oblivion? He has the decency to look ashamed. He's sick. He needs help. And I need to protect my daughter. I descend the stairs slowly, deliberately. Did you know he's been contacting my clients? Spreading rumors about my mental state? Using his brother-in-law to undermine me at board meetings? Derek pales. That's not. He wouldn't. I pull out my phone, playing the recording from the coffee shop. His own voice fills the room, confirming Jake's spiral. Then I show him the emails. Still want to defend him? I came here to help, he whispers. No. You came here to ease your guilt. You watched him self-destruct for months. Helped him hide it. Now that there are consequences, you want me to clean up his mess? The baby kicks hard, making me wince. Derek reaches out instinctively, then pulls back when my mother steps between us. I have proof of everything, I continue. The harassment, the sabotage, the drinking. One call to HR and his career is over. Is that what you want? What do you want? He counters. The question hits harder than expected. What do I want? Revenge? Justice? Peace? My phone buzzes again. Rachel, board voted. They're freezing your accounts pending investigation into concerns raised about your stability. The room tilts slightly. My mother grabs my arm, steadying me. I want him to feel what I'm feeling right now, I say finally. The helplessness. The betrayal. The knowledge that someone you trusted is systematically destroying everything you've built. He'll lose everything, Derek pleads. Good. I meet his gaze. Because that's exactly what he deserves. After Derek leaves, my mother helps me to the couch. You're shaking. I'm angry. I press my hands against my belly, feeling my daughter's movements. He's forcing my hand. If I don't act now, I'll lose everything I've worked for. My clients, my reputation. Your revenge is becoming an obsession, she observes quietly. Just like his insecurity did. The words sting because they're true. I'm becoming what I hate, letting Jake's actions control my choices even now. My phone lights up with Jake's number. Instead of ignoring it, I answer. Congratulations, I say before he can speak. You've finally gotten what you wanted. I'm taking my maternity leave early. Effective immediately. His breath catches. Kiara. But here's what you don't know, Jake. I'm not retreating. I'm regrouping. And when I come back, I stroke my belly, feeling my daughter's strength. Well, you might want to keep that bottle in your desk handy. I end the call, already drafting emails in my head. Jake thinks he's won this round, but he's forgotten something crucial. I've always played the long game better than him. And I'm just getting started. Labor pains feel a lot like revenge, sharp, purposeful, and ultimately worth the agony. I grip the hospital bed rails, timing my breaths between contractions, while Rachel reads from her phone. Jake's company announced major layoffs this morning. His department was hit hardest. She pauses. Derek says he cleared out his office yesterday. Another contraction hits. I focus on the pain, letting it fuel me. Good timing. The lawsuit papers will find him at home. Kiara, my mother warns from her chair. Maybe wait until after. No. I force myself to sit up straighter. The papers go out today. I want him served while I'm bringing his daughter into the world, the daughter he pretended didn't exist when he tried to destroy me. The nurse enters, checking monitors. Blood pressure's elevated. Try to stay calm. Calm? I want to laugh. I've spent months gathering evidence, building my case, watching Jake self-destruct while he thought I was hiding. Now, as my body prepares to deliver new life, my lawyers are delivering the final blow to his career. Rachel's phone buzzes. Derek again. Says Jake's not handling the layoff well. He's threatening to come here. He can try. My mother moves to the door, as if preparing to guard it personally. Security has his photo. Another contraction rips through me, stronger this time. The nurse frowns at the monitor. Baby's showing signs of distress. We need to get your pressure down. My phone lights up, Jake's number. Before anyone can stop me, I answer. Enjoying unemployment? My voice sounds strangled, even to me. You did this. His words slur slightly. Somehow, you orchestrated all of it. The client losses, the internal investigation, everything. You did it to yourself. I grip the rail harder as pain builds again. I just made sure everyone saw who you really are. I'm coming to the hospital. You can't keep my daughter from me. Watch me. The contraction peaks, and I can't hide my gasp. Are you in labor? His voice shifts, showing the first real emotion I've heard in months. Kiara, please. Let me be there. The monitor's beeping increases. The nurse moves quickly, adjusting equipment. Baby's heart rate is dropping. We need to prep for emergency C-section. My mother takes the phone. Jake, listen carefully. If you come here, I'll have you arrested. This is what you chose when you tried to destroy my daughter's life. Live with it. She ends the call as medical staff swarm the room. Through the chaos, I hear Rachel reading a text. Jake's brother-in-law just resigned from the board. Says he can't defend his actions anymore. I smile through the pain. Perfect timing. BP still rising, someone says. We need to move now. As they wheel me towards surgery, my mother squeezes my hand. Let it go, sweetheart. Focus on your daughter. But I can't. Even as they prep me for surgery, I'm calculating next moves. The lawsuit. The evidence against Jake's brother-in-law. The board members who'll face ethics investigations. The anesthesiologist leans over. Count backward from 10. 9. I think about Jake sitting alone in our empty house, career in ruins. 8. Rachel will ensure every potential employer knows about his drinking, his harassment. 7. My daughter will never know the man who chose pride over family. 6. The monitor's frantic beeping matches my racing thoughts. 5. My mother's worried face appears above me. 4. Your revenge won't keep her safe, she whispers. 3. But it will make sure Jake can never hurt us again. 2. The ceiling blurs. 1. As consciousness fades, I realize I'm crying. Not from pain or fear, but because part of me knows my mother's right. I'm giving birth to my daughter with hatred in my heart instead of joy. The last thing I hear is the doctor's voice, pressure's still climbing. We need to. Then darkness, and a final thought, what if winning this war costs me more than I'm willing to pay? 3 weeks after Emma's birth, I stand in our old driveway, my daughter sleeping against my chest in her carrier. The house looks smaller somehow, diminished like Jake's latest settlement offer sitting unopened in my purse. The key still works. Inside, everything's exactly as I left it, except for the empty bottles littering the coffee table. Jake's car isn't here, but Derek warned me he rarely leaves now except for job interviews he's too drunk to handle. Let's see what Daddy's been up to, I whisper to Emma, moving through rooms that feel like museum exhibits of my former life. In his home office, papers cover every surface, printouts of my emails, social media posts, news articles about the company's losses. Red marker circles names, draws connections, like a conspiracy theorist's fever dream. My phone buzzes. Rachel, board meeting ended. They're reinstating your accounts. Jake's brother-in-law confessed to everything. Victory should taste sweeter than this. Emma stirs, whimpering. I bounce her gently, studying Jake's wall of obsession. That's when I spot it, a familiar manila envelope tucked under some papers. My hands shake as I pull out photographs, me at doctor's appointments. Shopping for baby clothes. Having lunch with Rachel. All dated, annotated with times and locations. He's been stalking me. Beautiful girl, isn't she? I spin around. Jake stands in the doorway, swaying slightly. His clothes hang loose, his face gaunt beneath patchy stubble. You're drunk. I step backward, shielding Emma. Had to see her. He moves closer. My daughter. The one you used to destroy me. You destroyed yourself. Did I? He gestures at his wall. Or did you orchestrate everything? The client losses, the complaints, the investigation. You turned everyone against me. You did that when you chose your pride over your family. Emma starts crying. Jake flinches at the sound. Family? He laughs bitterly. You took that too. But I've been watching, Kiara. Learning your routines. Waiting. My back hits the desk. The photos scatter across the floor like fallen leaves. You need help, Jake. I need my life back. His shout makes Emma wail louder. Everything I had, my career, my reputation, my home, gone because you couldn't handle not being in control. Handle not being in control? My voice rises despite myself. You tried to sabotage my career. You spread lies about my mental health. I loved you. He slams his hand on the desk, inches from where I'm standing. And you made me feel worthless every single day. Emma's screams reach fever pitch. I need to get out, but Jake blocks the only exit. Move. No. His eyes fix on Emma. She's mine too. You can't keep taking things from me. He reaches for the carrier. I react instinctively, shoving him hard. He stumbles, catching himself against the doorframe. Don't you dare touch her. Or what? His smile is all wrong. You'll destroy me again? Too late, Kiara. You already did that. Now we're even. Footsteps thunder up the stairs. Derek appears behind Jake, Rachel close behind. Jesus Christ, Jake. Derek grabs his arm. What are you doing? Following my wife. Like she followed me. Watched me. Ruined me. Rachel edges past them, reaching for me. Come on. We're leaving. No one's leaving. Jake tries to shake off Derek's grip. Not until. Until what? My voice sounds strange, distant. Until you scare me enough? Hurt me enough? Make me feel as pathetic as you do? Emma's cries have subsided to hiccuping sobs. I touch her head, feeling her soft hair against my fingers. You want to know the difference between us, Jake? I built things. A career. A life. A future for our daughter. You only know how to destroy. Kiara, he whispers, and for a moment I see the man I married. Then his face hardens again. This isn't over. Yes, it is. I walk past him, my legs surprisingly steady. You're not even worth revenge anymore. Outside, the sun feels too bright. Rachel guides me to her car while Derek stays with Jake, already calling someone, rehab, maybe, or the police. In the back seat, I finally let myself shake, holding Emma close as she drifts back to sleep. My perfect revenge lies in ashes, leaving only the bitter taste of Pyrrhic victory and the weight of my daughter against my heart. The restraining order sits on my desk like a loaded gun. One signature, and Jake legally becomes a stranger. My lawyer says it's necessary after the stalking incident, but my pen hovers, uncertain. Emma sleeps in her carrier beside me while I review quarterly reports. Back at work for 2 weeks, and already the rhythm feels natural. Then my office door swings open. Jake stands there, sober and sharp in a new suit. Behind him, security guards rush forward, but he's already inside. Don't call them, he says quietly. Please. 5 minutes. I should press the panic button. Instead, I wave the guards back. 5 minutes. Then I'm signing these papers. He spots the restraining order, nods like he expected it. I'm checking into rehab tomorrow. 30-day program. Good for you. I keep my voice neutral, one hand resting near Emma's carrier. I sold the house. He stays by the door, maintaining distance. Used the money to pay back what I borrowed from the company. And he pulls out an envelope. I wrote letters. To your clients, the board, everyone I contacted during my campaign. Confessing everything. Why? Because you were right. His voice cracks. I only know how to destroy things. But I want to learn how to build instead. For her. He glances at Emma. Even if I never get to be her father. You'll always be her father, Jake. That's not something I can erase. No, but you can protect her from becoming collateral damage in my self-destruction. He sets the envelope on a chair. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Or another chance. I just wanted you to know I finally understand what I did. To you. To us. Emma stirs, making tiny sleep noises. Jake's face crumples for a moment before he rebuilds his composure. Derek showed me the photos, I say. The ones you took while stalking me. I know. That's why I'm here. He pulls something else from his pocket, a memory card. Every photo, every note, everything I collected during that time. Destroy it. I don't want to be that person anymore. My phone buzzes, Rachel texting that security is ready to intervene. I ignore it. You know what the worst part was? I stand, needing to move. Not the sabotage or the lies. It was watching you choose your pride over our daughter. Over and over. I chose fear, he corrects. Fear of being overshadowed. Of being irrelevant. Of not being enough. He laughs softly. Turns out, those fears were self-fulfilling prophecies. And now? Now I'm afraid of something worse, that Emma will grow up knowing her father was a coward who tried to destroy her mother rather than face his own inadequacies. I look at the restraining order, then at Emma, then at Jake, this stranger wearing my husband's face, speaking truths instead of accusations. Your 5 minutes are up. He nods, turning to leave. Then stops. The company offered me my job back. After rehab. I turned it down. Why? Because sometimes. He meets my eyes for the first time. Sometimes you have to lose everything to understand what you should have valued in the first place. The memory card sits on my desk where he left it. Next to it, the restraining order waits for my signature. Tools of destruction and protection, revenge and redemption. Jake. He pauses at the door. When you finish rehab. If you're serious about building things. I touch Emma's cheek. She'll need a father who knows how to do that. I don't deserve. This isn't about what you deserve. It's about what she deserves. I pick up the restraining order. I'll hold on to this. As insurance. But I won't file it. Yet. He nods, understanding the weight of this small mercy. Thank you. After he leaves, I open my desk drawer, dropping the memory card inside. Evidence of who we were, preserved but not defining who we might become. Emma wakes, demanding attention. As I lift her, my revenge fantasy finally crumbles completely, replaced by something harder but more necessary, the slow, careful work of building a future from the ashes of our past. The unsigned restraining order sits in my bottom drawer like a loaded gun I never fired. Emma plays on the office floor, stacking wooden blocks while I review quarterly projections. Her dark hair falls in her eyes, Jake's eyes, as she concentrates on her tower. My phone buzzes. Derek's text reads, Jake completed the program. Asked me to tell you. I set the phone down, watching Emma knock over her creation with a delighted squeal. She's already rebuilding, placing each block with careful determination. Rachel appears in my doorway, holding a familiar manila envelope. This came for you. Hand-delivered. Inside, I find a single sheet of paper, Jake's resignation letter from his new job in Seattle. At the bottom, he's written, some distances aren't measured in miles. You okay? Rachel asks. Better than okay. I file the letter with the restraining order. I'm done measuring distances. The intercom buzzes. Miss Thompson? Your 3 o'clock is here. Send them in. I scoop Emma up, settling her on my hip. Ready to meet Mommy's new client? She babbles something that might be client or might be climb. These days, everything's a mountain to scale. The door opens. Jake stands there, clean-shaven in a charcoal suit, holding a presentation folder. Thompson Consulting, he says quietly. Independent contractor. If you'll have me. Emma reaches for him instinctively. I don't stop her. The Seattle job. I begin. Wasn't what I needed to build. He accepts Emma's weight, professional demeanor cracking as she pats his face. I had a good teacher about rebuilding things. I gesture to the visitor's chair, noting how he arranges Emma on his lap, protecting her from the edge of my desk. Some instincts run deeper than our mistakes. Why consulting? Because I finally learned what you knew all along: success isn't about power. It's about creating something sustainable. He opens his folder. I've got references. A business plan. Even some potential clients who need help restructuring there? Stop. I hold up a hand. This isn't a job interview. His face falls, but he nods. I understand. I just thought. It's a partnership negotiation. I pull out a contract draft I'd prepared weeks ago, watching his expression shift. 60-40 split. Separate accounts. Clear boundaries. You knew I'd come back. I knew you'd either rebuild or self-destruct. The choice was always yours. Emma squirms off his lap, returning to her blocks. We both watch as she starts a new tower, this one more ambitious than the last. I can't undo what I did, Jake says. No. But you can build something new. If you're ready to do the work. He studies the contract, then looks at our daughter. Some things are worth building slowly. I think about revenge, about justice, about the fine line between protecting what matters and destroying what threatens us. The unsigned restraining order whispers from its drawer, but its voice grows fainter each day. Sign it, I say, pushing the contract forward. Not because you deserve it. But because Emma deserves to see that broken things can be rebuilt. Better. Stronger. Different. As Jake reaches for the pen, Emma's tower collapses again. Instead of crying, she laughs, already gathering blocks for another attempt. Like mother, like daughter, Jake murmurs. No, I correct him, watching Emma work. Like herself. That's all she needs to be. He signs the contract, his hand steady. Outside my office, Rachel gives me a questioning look through the glass. I nod, just once. She smiles and turns away, carrying my unspoken message: sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about building something they can't tear down. Emma holds up a block, offering it to both of us. In her small hands, it looks less like a weapon and more like a foundation stone. Jake and I reach for it together, our fingers brushing briefly as we help our daughter start again. Not with forgiveness, that's still a distant shore. But with something more essential, the understanding that some things are worth building, even from the ashes of what we burned.
Money changes everything. That's what people say, but I never believed it until the day a lawyer's call shattered my carefully arranged life into 1,000 jagged pieces. I was reshelving books in the library's fiction section when my phone buzzed. Usually I let calls go to voicemail during work hours, but something made me answer. Maybe it was the unfamiliar number, or maybe fate has a way of forcing your hand when it's ready to deal you a new card. Miss Johnson, this is Robert Walsh from Walsh & Associates. I'm calling regarding your cousin, David Turner. David, a name I hadn't heard in years. Last I knew, he was somewhere in Silicon Valley, making millions or losing everything. The family wasn't quite sure which. There's been an incident, Walsh continued. Mr. Turner has passed away, and you're named in his will. The book in my hand, some romance novel about star-crossed lovers, slipped and hit the floor with a dull thud. A few patrons looked up, but I barely noticed them. That's impossible, I said. I haven't spoken to David in 15 years. Nevertheless, Miss Johnson, you've inherited his controlling stake in Tech Fusion Dynamics. The current market value is approximately $48 million. I grabbed the shelf to steady myself. 48 million. The number bounced around my head like a pinball, setting off bells and whistles with each collision. There must be some mistake, I whispered. No mistake. We'll need you to come to our offices to discuss the details. And Miss Johnson, I'd advise discretion until everything is finalized. After hanging up, I stood there, frozen between the shelves that had been my sanctuary for the past 8 years. My phone buzzed again. Lucas, probably wondering about our dinner plans. I let it go to voicemail. Lucas, my boyfriend of 2 years, the man who'd been hinting at marriage, who'd been so patient with my hesitation, my need for independence. What would he say about this? Maeve. Nina's voice startled me. My best friend and fellow librarian appeared at the end of the aisle, her bright purple hair a stark contrast to the muted library surroundings. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Something like that, I managed. Can you cover for me? I need some air. Outside, the city rushed by in its usual frenzy, but everything felt different, like I was watching it all through a warped lens. My cousin was dead. I was rich. The two facts refused to align in my mind. My phone buzzed again. Lucas. Hey, beautiful. His voice warm and familiar. Still on for dinner at my parents' place tonight? Carol and Henry Bennett. My potential future in-laws. They'd never approved of their son dating a librarian, though they hid it behind polite smiles and backhanded compliments. Actually, I'm not feeling well, I lied, surprising myself. I never lied to Lucas. Can we reschedule? Everything okay? Concern colored his voice, but something else too. Disappointment, suspicion, just a headache. I'll call you tomorrow. I ended the call and stared at my reflection in a store window. Same mousy brown hair, same unremarkable face, but something had shifted inside me, like a key turning in a lock I didn't know existed. David was dead, and he'd left me an empire I never asked for. The question was, why? And more importantly, what would it cost me? My phone buzzed one more time. A text from an unknown number. We need to talk about David. Meet me at Riverside Cafe tomorrow at 10. Come alone. CT. The carefully constructed simplicity of my life was unraveling. And I had a feeling this was just the beginning. The Riverside Cafe was exactly the kind of place Lucas would hate. Mismatched furniture, local art on exposed brick walls, and not a designer label in sight. I arrived 15 minutes early, ordered a chai latte, and watched the door like a hawk. At precisely 10, a woman in her 50s walked in. She had David's eyes, that same intense green that seemed to look right through you. She spotted me immediately and made her way over. Catherine Turner, she said, extending her hand. David's wife, though I suppose ex-wife would be more accurate now. My throat went dry. I didn't know David was married. There's a lot you don't know about your cousin. She sat down, declining my offer to get her a drink, including why he left you those shares. Before she could continue, my phone buzzed. Lucas. I silenced it, but Catherine noticed. Someone important. My boyfriend, I said, then added, he doesn't know about the inheritance yet. Catherine's lips tightened. Smart girl, keep it that way. Especially if his last name is Bennett. The chai latte nearly spilled as my hand jerked. How did you? Because Carol Bennett has been trying to get her hands on Tech Fusion for years. David blocked her every attempt. She leaned forward. Your boyfriend's mother is a piranha in Chanel, Maeve, and you just became her favorite prey. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text. Where are you? Mom and Dad insist on dinner tonight. No excuses. Catherine watched me read it. Let me guess, sudden interest in family dinner. I should tell Lucas the truth, I said, more to convince myself than her. He's different from his parents. Really? Catherine pulled out her phone, showed me a photo. It was Lucas, leaving what looked like an investment firm. This was taken yesterday. He's already meeting with merger specialists. The cafe suddenly felt too warm, too crowded. That doesn't mean... It means exactly what you think it means. Catherine's voice softened. David knew this would happen. That's why he left you specific instructions. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a letter in David's familiar scrawl. Dear Maeve, if you're reading this, I'm dead, and the vultures are circling. Whatever you do, don't sign anything. Trust Catherine. She knows the plan. My phone buzzed a third time. Lucas again. Car's picking you up at 7. Wear something nice. Mom's excited to see you. I bet she is, I thought, and felt something shift inside me, that same key turning, but this time unlocking anger instead of confusion. What's the plan? I asked Catherine. First, you're going to that dinner. Wear whatever the hell you want. Let them think you're still the same naive librarian they've been underestimating. She stood up. But before you go, we need to make a quick stop at Walsh and Associates. The lawyer's office? Why? Catherine smiled. And for a moment, I saw what David must have seen in her. Because, dear girl, that's where we keep the sharks. I sent Lucas a quick text, see you at 7, and followed Catherine out. My phone immediately lit up with his response. Perfect. Love you. 3 simple words that used to make my heart flutter. Now they felt like the first lines of a script I hadn't known I was performing in. As we walked to her car, Catherine glanced at me. You know this won't be easy. The Bennetts don't lose gracefully. I thought about all the subtle digs from Carol, the way Henry dismissed my career, how Lucas always seemed to steer our future talks toward his family's interests. 2 years of hints I'd ignored, wrapped in love I'd wanted to believe in. Good, I said, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. Neither do I. Catherine's laugh was sharp and appreciative. You really are David's cousin. She unlocked her car, a modest hybrid, not the luxury vehicle I'd expected. Ready to learn how to fight back, I took one last look at Lucas's text, then turned off my phone. Ready to win. The Bennett mansion loomed before me like a challenge. I smoothed down my simple black dress, definitely not the something nice Lucas had in mind, and pressed the doorbell. Lucas opened the door, his smile faltering slightly at my outfit. You look comfortable. That's the idea. I stepped past him into the marble foyer, where Carol Bennett stood waiting in what probably cost more than my annual salary. Maeve, darling. Her air kiss missed my cheek by inches. We have so much to celebrate. I caught Lucas shifting uncomfortably. Celebrate? Lucas told us everything, Henry called from his study. About your inheritance. Quite the windfall. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. I turned to Lucas, who at least had the decency to look ashamed. Did he now? Come, let's have drinks before dinner. Carol steered me toward the living room. Henry's been dying to discuss some investment opportunities with you. Of course he has. I remembered Catherine's words about sharks and wondered if she could see me now, swimming in deep water. Actually, I said, planting my feet, I'd like to know exactly what Lucas told you. The room went still. Carol's perfectly manicured hand tightened on her martini glass. Just that you've come into some tech shares. Nothing specific, of course. 48 million in Tech Fusion Dynamics, Henry said, emerging from his study. That's quite specific, isn't it? Lucas stepped forward. Maeve, I only mentioned it because... Because what? The words came out sharp enough to make him flinch. Because you couldn't wait to tell them about my private business. Or because you've already planned how to spend it. Carol's smile turned brittle. Now, dear, you're being dramatic. We're practically family. Lucas was going to propose next month, weren't you, darling? My laugh surprised even me. Was he? Before or after the merger specialists? The glass in Carol's hand actually cracked. Lucas went pale. How did you know? I pulled out my phone, showed them Catherine's photo. Funny thing about family secrets, they have a way of coming out. Henry's face darkened. Catherine Turner has no right to warn me, unlike my boyfriend, who apparently reports everything to mommy and daddy. That's not fair, Lucas protested. I love you. This could be good for all of us. All of us. I gestured around the room. Or all of you. Carol set down her broken glass. Perhaps we should discuss this after dinner. The chef prepared your favorite, Lucas mentioned. Stop. My voice cut through her practiced smoothness. Just stop pretending. I've seen the merger proposals. I know about the failed takeover attempts when David was alive. Henry stepped forward, all pretense gone. That company should have been ours years ago. Your cousin was an obstacle. And now I'm the obstacle. The pieces clicked into place. Is that why you pushed Lucas to date me 2 years ago? Were you planning this even then? Lucas reached for my hand. I jerked away. Maeve, please, whatever you're thinking, I'm thinking clearly for the first time in 2 years. I turned to Carol. You must have been thrilled when you found out about my inheritance. Finally, a way in. You ungrateful little... Carol caught herself, forced another smile. Let's all calm down. We can discuss this reasonably. Nothing about this is reasonable. I headed for the door, but Lucas blocked my path. Don't leave like this, he pleaded. We can work it out. I do love you. I looked into his eyes I'd trusted, eyes that had lied. No, you love what I represent. There's a difference. If you walk out that door, Henry called after me, you'll regret it. I paused at the threshold, turned back one last time. No, I'll regret the 2 years I spent thinking I belonged here. But that stops now. The door slammed behind me with satisfying force. In my purse, my phone buzzed with a text from Catherine. How'd it go? I typed back. They showed their teeth. Your turn. Her response came instantly. Perfect. Meet me at Walsh's office tomorrow. Time to show them ours. The night air felt clean after the mansion's suffocating atmosphere. I walked to my car, leaving behind the fantasy of belonging to their world. They wanted a game. Fine. But they'd forgotten something important. I had David's blood in my veins, and now I had nothing left to lose. The library's back office felt like a bunker, with Nina perched on my desk while I paced between filing cabinets. 3 days since the Bennett dinner, and my phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages from Lucas. So he knew, Nina asked, scrolling through the texts. The whole time. 2 years. My laugh sounded hollow, even to me. 2 years of planning how to get his hands on David's company. Nina set my phone down. You need to read this. She pulled up an article on her tablet. It hit the business blogs this morning. The headline made my stomach drop. Bennett Industries faces SEC investigation. Family empire on shaky ground. Henry Bennett's been cooking the books, Nina said. They're practically bankrupt. A knock at the door made us both jump. Catherine stood there, looking grimmer than usual. You've seen the news? Just now. I gestured at Nina. This is my friend. Nina Parker, I know. Catherine closed the door. I've been doing my homework. She's the only person you trust besides Lucas. Well, trusted. Nina straightened. And who exactly are you? Someone who knows what the Bennetts are really after. Catherine pulled out a USB drive. This isn't just about tech fusion anymore. Show them, Nina. Nina plugged in the drive, and her tablet filled with documents, bank statements, emails, merger proposals dating back 3 years. They've been planning this since before you met Lucas, Catherine said. Carol Bennett orchestrated the whole thing. She knew David was sick before anyone else. The room tilted slightly. How? Because she had someone watching him, watching you too. Catherine's voice softened. That's not all. Check the last folder. Nina's sharp intake of breath made me look. There were photos, dozens of them. Me at work, at home, with Lucas, dating back 3 years. They chose you, Catherine said. Found the perfect mark. Someone lonely, someone who'd believe Lucas could fall for a quiet librarian. My legs gave out. I sank into my chair, remembering every chance meeting with Lucas. Every time he seemed to know exactly what I needed to hear. There's more, Nina whispered, still scrolling. Maeve, they were the ones who isolated David, made sure you two lost touch. The pieces clicked together. The mysterious family rifts, the gradual distance, the way David tried to reach out before. When did he die? I asked Catherine. Really? 2 weeks ago, murder staged as suicide. Her words fell like stones. They thought they'd finally broken him. Instead, he changed his will. A sound escaped me, half laugh, half sob. He knew, and he gave me the shares to finish what he started. Catherine nodded. But they're desperate now. The SEC investigation, the failing company. They'll come after you hard. My phone buzzed again. Lucas, please, we need to talk. I can explain everything. Nina touched my arm. What are you going to do? I looked at the photos, at years of manipulation captured in pixels, at the careful construction of a love story that was really a business strategy. First, I said, standing up, I'm going to call that lawyer. Walsh? Catherine asked. No, someone better. I pulled out the card David's lawyer had given me. Someone who specializes in corporate takeovers. Nina's eyes widened. You're going after them? They're already drowning, I said, surprising myself with how calm I felt. I'm just going to help them sink. Catherine's smile was sharp. David would be proud. My phone buzzed one final time. Carol Bennett, dinner tomorrow, just us girls. We should talk about Lucas's future. I showed them the message. Nina swore under her breath, but Catherine just nodded. Perfect, she said. Except, why? Because Carol Bennett thinks she's still playing chess. Catherine gathered her things. Time to show her she's been playing checkers all along. I typed back a response, looking forward to it. The lie felt clean on my fingers, like the first page of a new book. They'd written my story for 3 years. Now it was my turn to write theirs. And this time, I knew exactly how it would end. Carol Bennett chose Le Jardin for our dinner, the kind of restaurant where the menu has no prices, and the waiters judge your wine selection. I arrived early, armed with Catherine's USB drive in my purse, and David's last letter burning a hole in my pocket. Carol was already there, perfectly coiffed in Chanel. Maeve, darling, I took the liberty of ordering champagne. To celebrate what? I settled into my chair, noting the extra place setting. I thought this was just us girls. Oh, did I forget to mention? Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Lucas insisted on joining us. He's parking the car. Of course he was. I touched the USB drive through my purse, remembering Catherine's warning. Don't show your hand too early. Before he arrives, Carol leaned forward. I want to clear the air about that unfortunate dinner. Which part? The ambush or the threats? Don't be dramatic. She sipped her water. Henry can be direct, but we only want what's best for everyone. Everyone meaning the Bennett family, which could include you. She reached across the table, touched my hand. Lucas loves you. The merger would just be formalizing things. The champagne arrived with Lucas, who bent to kiss my cheek. I turned my head slightly, making him catch the corner of my mouth instead. You look beautiful, he said, settling between us. I've missed you. Funny how surveillance photos work that way. His glass froze halfway to his lips. Carol's knuckles whitened around her stem. What did you say? Lucas asked. I pulled out my phone, showed them the photos Catherine had given me. 3 years of watching, planning, orchestrating. That's quite the long game. Where did you get those? Carol's voice had lost its polish. The same place I got these. I placed David's letter on the table. He wrote this the day before he died, or should I say, the day before you had him killed. Lucas went pale. Maeve, whatever you think, I don't think, I know. I pulled out the USB drive. Every email, every transaction, every piece of evidence showing how you systematically destroyed David's life while setting up mine. Carol's mask cracked. You stupid girl, you have no idea what you're dealing with. Actually, I do. I stood up, gathering my things. The SEC investigation, that was just the beginning. The real documents hit the press tomorrow morning. Lucas grabbed my arm. Wait, don't touch me. I jerked away. You know what the funny thing is? Somewhere along the way, I think you actually started to care, but not enough to stop, right? I did care, I do. His voice cracked. It wasn't supposed to go this far. David wasn't supposed to what? Fight back? Leave me his shares? I laughed, and it sounded like breaking glass. He knew what you were. All of you. That's why he made sure I'd have the power to finish what he started. Carol stood, her composure finally shattering. If you think you can threaten us, I'm not threatening anything, I'm promising. I met her gaze steadily. By this time tomorrow, Bennett Industries will be under federal investigation. Your reputation, your social standing, everything you value, gone. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Lucas, those merger papers you were hoping I'd sign, I already did, with your biggest competitor. The champagne bottle crashed to the floor as Carol lunged for her phone. Lucas just sat there, staring at nothing. Outside, Catherine was waiting in her car. How'd it go? Exactly as planned. My hands were shaking now, the adrenaline fading. Did you send the files? 10 minutes ago. It'll hit the morning news cycle. She studied my face. You okay? I thought about Lucas's face when I mentioned the merger, about Carol's mask finally cracking, about David, who'd seen this coming and armed me for the fight. No, I said honestly, but I will be. Catherine started the car. Where to? I touched the letter in my pocket, David's last gift, his final move in a game I was only beginning to understand. The lawyer's office, I said. We're not done yet. The morning headlines hit like bombs. Bennett Industries under federal investigation. Tech dynasty crumbles. Corporate scandal rocks social elite. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I sat in Walsh's office, staring at security footage that changed everything. Play it again, I told the lawyer. The grainy video showed David entering his office the night he died. He wasn't alone. Lucas was with him. Timestamp shows this was 3 hours before. Walsh trailed off. Before they made it look like suicide, Catherine's voice was tight. Maeve, we didn't know. I watched Lucas on screen, gesturing angrily. David remained calm, writing something, the letter he'd left me. Then Henry Bennett entered the frame. Stop. I couldn't watch the rest again. Why didn't this come out during the investigation? Because I buried it. Henry Bennett's voice made us all jump. He stood in the doorway, looking older than I'd ever seen him. May I come in? Catherine moved to block his path. Give me one reason. Because I'm here to confess. He placed a USB drive on Walsh's desk. Everything. The surveillance, the manipulation, David's murder, all of it. My throat closed. Why now? Because Lucas turned himself in an hour ago. Henry's composure cracked. My son is going to prison, and I won't let him go alone. The room tilted. Lucas had turned himself in. Lucas, who'd watched David die, who'd been part of it all, had finally chosen truth over family. Carol doesn't know you're here, I realized. Carol is boarding a private jet to a non-extradition country. His laugh was hollow. She always had an escape plan. I chose to face the consequences. My revenge fantasy was crumbling. I'd wanted them to suffer, to feel as betrayed as I did. But watching Henry Bennett surrender his freedom to stand with his son felt like a punch to the gut. The letter, I said suddenly. The one David wrote that night. What did it say? Henry pulled out a folded paper, the real letter, not the copy I had. He knew what was coming, read it. My hands shook as I unfolded it. Maeve, if you're reading this, I'm dead. And you're probably burning with revenge. Don't. The Bennetts destroyed themselves long before they came after us. The shares I left you aren't meant as a weapon. They're a chance to build something better. Lucas knows this. Despite everything, he might be the only one who can help you do it. Love, David. He knew, I whispered. He knew Lucas would choose differently, in the end. My son loved you, Henry said quietly. That wasn't part of the plan. It's why he couldn't go through with the final merger, why he fought with Carol, why he's confessing now. Catherine touched my arm. Maeve? I stared at the letter, at Henry's broken expression, at the evidence of a revenge plot that had somehow twisted into something else entirely. The press conference, I said finally, the one where I was going to expose everything, cancel it. What? Catherine straightened. After everything they did? David was right. This isn't about destroying them anymore. I faced Henry. You and Lucas will face justice through the courts, but tech fusion. We're going to rebuild it. Make it what David always wanted. We? Henry asked. Lucas will serve his time, but when he's out, I swallowed hard. David trusted him for a reason. Maybe it's time I figured out why. Walsh cleared his throat. The press is waiting downstairs. What should I tell them? I looked at the security footage, frozen on David's face. At Henry, choosing accountability over escape. At the letter that had changed everything. Tell them. I took a deep breath. Tell them this is a story about redemption, not revenge. My phone buzzed. Nina, probably wondering why I wasn't destroying the Bennetts as planned. But David's words echoed in my head. A chance to build something better. The hard part wouldn't be forgiving Lucas. The hard part would be forgiving myself for wanting to become exactly what I'd hated about them. Ready? Catherine asked, gesturing toward the door. No, I wasn't ready at all. But maybe that was the point. The prison visiting room smelled of industrial cleaner and stale coffee. Lucas sat across from me. Orange jumpsuit stark against his pale skin. 3 months in custody had stripped away his polished veneer, leaving something raw and unfamiliar. You got my letter? He asked. I placed David's final letter on the table between us. I got both of them. His eyes fixed on David's handwriting. Then you know. I know he trusted you. What I don't know is why. Lucas touched the letter's edge, then pulled back as if burned. The night he died, I was supposed to get his signature on the merger documents. Instead, he showed me everything. The real Tech Fusion financials, the prototype designs, what the company could become. And that changed your mind? No. His laugh was bitter. What changed my mind was watching my mother order his death like she was ordering dinner. A guard shifted nearby, reminding us we weren't alone. I lowered my voice. Why didn't you stop it? Because I was a coward. He met my eyes for the first time. But David knew that too. He knew I'd eventually choose differently. How could he possibly? Because of you? Lucas pushed David's letter toward me. He saw how I changed around you. Not just pretending, but actually changing. That's why he left you the shares. Not to destroy us, but to finish what he started. My throat tightened. The hidden clause in the charter. Article 7.3. Lucas nodded. If the shares are held by a direct descendant of the Turner family, they can't be diluted or transferred without unanimous board approval. Which means my mother's plan was doomed from the start. David made sure of that. The door opened, and Catherine walked in, carrying a thick folder. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was... She stopped, seeing Lucas. Oh. It's okay, I said. He needs to hear this too. Catherine sat beside me, spreading documents across the table. Carol's been found. Singapore authorities picked her up an hour ago. Lucas closed his eyes briefly. Good. There's more. Catherine pulled out a final document. We found David's original business plan. The one he wrote before the Bennetts got involved. My hands shook as I read it. A technology education initiative. Free coding schools in underserved communities, Lucas explained. That was his real vision, before my family convinced him to focus on profit instead. Which is why he left everything to you, Catherine said. He knew you'd understand the value of education, of giving people chances they might not otherwise have. The librarian in me stirred, a place where anyone could learn, regardless of background. We can still build it, Lucas said quietly. Even from in here, I can help, if you'll let me. I studied his face, the face I'd loved, hated, and now couldn't quite categorize. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't. He pushed away from the table. Trust David instead. He saw something in both of us, something worth saving. Catherine touched my arm. Maeve? I looked at the scattered documents, David's vision, Lucas's confession, the future waiting to be built from the ashes of revenge. Article 7.3 stays in place. The shares remain protected. Of course, Lucas agreed. But, I continued, when you get out, there's a place for you in the education initiative, if you're willing to build something instead of destroying it. Time's up, the guard called. Lucas stood, hesitated. I loved you, you know. Not at first, but eventually. That part was real. I know. I gathered the documents. That's why David trusted you. And maybe that's why I can too. Eventually. He nodded once, understanding the weight of that maybe, then turned to go. Lucas, I called after him. He looked back. David was right about one more thing. What's that? Redemption is harder than revenge, but it's worth more in the end. The door closed behind him, and I felt something shift. Not the key turning this time, but a door opening to something new, something better. Catherine squeezed my hand. Ready? I picked up David's letter, his final gift, now feeling less like a weapon and more like a foundation. Ready to build. The Turner Bennett Technology Center occupied an old warehouse in the city's forgotten industrial district. Exposed brick walls now held rows of computers, and the former loading dock had become a sunny reading room. I stood in the entrance, watching the first group of students file in. Teenagers mostly, carrying worn backpacks and uncertain dreams. Nina appeared beside me, her purple hair now streaked with silver. They look terrified. They look like me, I said. Before all this, the center had taken 18 months to build, each day a step away from revenge and towards something else, something David had seen coming all along. Catherine emerged from her office, carrying a familiar envelope. This came from the prison. Lucas's parole hearing was next month. His letters had evolved from apologies to ideas, each one filled with plans for expanding the center's reach. I tucked the envelope away for later. Miss Johnson, a girl with thick glasses, approached, clutching a laptop. I found something weird in the registration system. I followed her to her workstation, where she'd pulled up the center's code. There, buried in the programming, was a message I'd never seen. For Maeve, who learned that the best revenge is proving them wrong. Love, David. My throat tightened. Even now, he was leaving breadcrumbs, hidden messages in the foundation he'd helped me build. It's not a bug, I told the girl. It's a feature. Want to learn how he did it? Her eyes lit up. We spent the next hour dissecting David's code, other students gradually gathering around to watch. This was what he'd wanted all along. Knowledge freely given, barriers broken down. The door chimed, and Henry Bennett walked in. He'd aged decades in prison, but his eyes were clearer now. Just wanted to see it, he said quietly. Before I leave town. I nodded toward the students. Want a tour? He followed me through the facility, past coding classes and art workshops, study spaces and collaboration rooms. In each one, people from different worlds worked together, learning, creating. Carol called, he said finally. From Singapore. I stiffened. And? She wanted to invest. I told her no. He smiled slightly. Some things shouldn't be about profit. In my office, David's letter sat framed on the wall, next to the article announcing Carol's arrest. Redemption and justice, side by side. Lucas would be proud, Henry said, then caught himself. Sorry, I shouldn't. It's okay. I touched the envelope in my pocket. He'll see it soon enough. Nina poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt, but the reporters are here for the opening ceremony. I dreaded this moment, standing in front of cameras, explaining what we'd built, but looking at the students through my office window, I realized I didn't need to explain anything. The results spoke for themselves. Coming, I told Nina, then turned to Henry. Will you stay? He shook his head. This is your moment. Besides, he gestured to the security camera in the corner. I think I've been on enough surveillance footage for one lifetime. I watched him leave, then joined Nina by the podium. The reporters waited with their cameras, ready to document the rise of the Turner Bennett Technology Center. Though most had missed the real story, this wasn't about revenge or redemption anymore. It was about choice. The choice to build instead of destroy, to teach instead of manipulate, to find strength in vulnerability rather than power. Ready? Nina squeezed my hand. I looked at our students, each carrying their own stories of struggle and hope. At Catherine, who'd helped me navigate between justice and vengeance. At the empty seat I'd saved, just in case Lucas earned his way back. Actually, I said, stepping away from the podium, I think we should let them tell the story. I beckoned to the girl who'd found David's message. She approached nervously, then began to speak about discovering hidden code and learning to create something new. In her voice, I heard the future David had imagined. Not a revenge story, but a beginning. And maybe that had been the point all along.